Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the June 13th, 2022 Mason City Council meeting. I just want to say a happy early Father's Day to everybody out there for next weekend, and I hope you can enjoy your weekend with your family. And I'm going to call this meeting to order and ask for the roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Nelson?
Here.
Councilmember Chance?
Here.
Councilmember Bradburn?
Present.
Councilmember Hackey?
Here.
Councilmember Grossman?
Here.
Mayor Spaeth?
Here. I'm going to ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. We're to item 4, which we are needing to approve the May 9th council meeting minutes. So I need a motion to approve those minutes, please.
So moved?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you. Item 5, city manager's report, please.
Abstain from the minutes for May 9th.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I have several items here I'll move through rapidly. First of all, at our last meeting, the city authorized an agreement with the Southwest Ohio Philharmonic to hold an event on the south lawn here of the Municipal Center. As part of that, they are partnering with the American Legion, who is requesting a temporary liquor permit from the state and then approval from council to allow for alcohol on the Mason Municipal Center campus. That would be on Saturday, August 6th from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. If council is willing to do that, a motion is in order.
I'll make that
motion.
I'll second it.
A second? Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Also, just wanted to continue to mention the city is working with the Mason Deerfield Chamber of Commerce as well as the Mason Historical Society to promote Mason small business community. Throughout June, Mason residents are encouraged to treat yourself by supporting local salon and spa businesses in Mason, and the city is offering a variety of raffle prizes for those folks that take advantage of those services. And then July, the theme will be celebrating patio season in Mason, so that residents that visit establishments that enjoy a patio experience, a similar raffle would be held, including prizes to the Grizzly Golf and Social Lodge. Details on all those events are available on the city's webpage at imaginemason.org. Also want to mention that the Maid Chamber has received an award of excellence for work they've done on their new website, which was launched in January of this year. They are now eligible for the Best in Show title by the Association of Chamber of Commerce Executives, and we expect those to be announced at the end of July. Also, in downtown, the Music in Mason series will continue this Friday at 6 p.m. It has proven again to be a popular event in the downtown. Friday, June 17th, June 24th, July 8th, July 15th, 22nd, and 29th. There will be different bands on the plaza, 2 musical entertainment acts each of those nights. This Friday is Hi-Fi Honey and the Richard Lynch Band. So I encourage council members as well as members of the public to take advantage of those events. And then that just brings us to Red Rhythm and Boom, which will be taking place on Sunday, July 3rd on this campus. The event begins at 4 p.m. with access to Kids Zone activities, as well as attractions, food, non-food vendors. Then at 6 p.m., the concert begins with the opening act, the Reunion of Souls. And then the headlining artist at 8:30 p.m. will be Smash Mouth. And the event concludes with a fireworks display by Rozzie's Famous Fireworks at 10 p.m. The city, as you know, all departments, we have an incident command team that pulls staff from across the city, are now spending a majority of their time preparing for that, the logistics to get that event ready and hold it to the similar standards in the past. That will impact office hours, community center hours. We anticipate community center will be open from 7 a.m. to 12 p.m. on July 3rd, and city offices will be closed on July 4th as staff are cleaning up from the event. and limited services on July 4th at the community center. And then, Mayor, I think last, I would like to ask council to consider moving up 3 resolutions on the agenda, Resolution 2022-13, 14, and 15. I think that may help some members of our audience that have some particular interest in this evening. If council is willing to do that, I'd suggest moving to Resolution 2022-13 now.
Can I have a motion for that, please?
So moved. Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Anyone opposed? Okay, we're going to move up, I'll explain this here. We're going to move up items 10, 11, and 12, and we're doing this a little different because we don't usually have 3 teams that we're going to be honoring all on one night. So to kind of move this along, how I would like to do this evening is we will go through each of these resolutions for the teams and approve those, and then we'll come back, and I'm going to have each of you all come up individually as your teams, and we'll do it that way, and we'll get pictures and stuff after that. So I'm going to item 10, which is Resolution 2022-13, and I need a motion to read by title only, please.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Anyone opposed? Okay, Jeff?
Congratulating the Mason High School girls basketball team.
Okay, and I believe you're going to read the resolution, please?
Whereas the Mason High School girls basketball team finished the season with an overall record of 27-3, with a league play record of 15-1, resulting in being named co-champions in the Greater Miami Conference. And whereas in the post-league season, the Mason Comets went on to win the sectional, district, and regional championships, ultimately beating Mount Notre Dame High School and ending their opponent's 98-game winning streak. And whereas on March 12, 2022, the Mason Comets advanced to the Division I state championships, competing against Reynoldsburg, where the female athletes competed with dedication and determination. And whereas Mason High School senior Kyla Oldacre represented Mason in the McDonald's All-American game, competing amongst the other top basketball athletes throughout the greater Cincinnati region. And whereas Mason girls basketball team head coach Rob Matula has led the team through 400 wins throughout his career as Mason's head coach. And whereas the entire Mason community is proud of the accomplishments of the Mason girls basketball team and their hard work, discipline, and commitment to the game of basketball, and is an inspiration to all, now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of Mason, Ohio, 6 members thereto concurring. Section 1, that the Council of the City of Mason hereby congratulates the Mason High School girls basketball team on the success of their 2021-2022 season.
Okay, thank you. I need a motion. Thank you. I need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Anyone opposed? A motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any council discussion? Yes.
Yeah, real quick, good story for the girls here. Coach Matula was my 7th grade basketball coach, and I'm just going to keep it at that, but I would love to hear some of the side stories. But in all seriousness, congratulations on that. That's a huge accomplishment, not only what you guys did, but Coach Matula, 400 wins. That's pretty unprecedented, so well done.
Okay, anyone else?
Mayor,
Yes.
just want to say I'm very proud of how you ladies represented our city. Way to go and congratulations.
Okay, anyone else? I just want to say that I did not attend all of the basketball games, but I did get to see that final state game, and it was very exciting. It was a nail biter, clear to the end. I thought it was so exciting. Was it 1 overtime or 2? I can't. 1. Okay, I couldn't remember. But you all worked very hard and really deserve this recognition because that was just a really great game, and we're really proud of you. Okay, so let's have roll call now.
Councilmember Chance?
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn?
Yes.
Councilmember Hackey? Councilmember Grossman?
Yes.
Mayor Spaeth?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nelson?
Yes.
Okay, we will now do item number 11, which is Resolution 2022-14. A motion to read by title only, please.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Yes.
Anyone opposed? Okay, Jeff?
Congratulating the Mason High School girls tennis team.
Yes.
Whereas the Mason High School girls tennis team, led by Coach Mike Reed, finished the fall season with a perfect record of 20-0, advancing to the state championships where the team secured the title of OTCA state champions. And whereas this is the 5th year in a row that Mason High School girls tennis team has won the state championship, and whereas teammates Rusha Chada, Anna Tonkel, Danielle Reed, and Danielle Lebedev represented the Mason Commons in the state championship in the doubles division, and whereas tennis team member Shaila Agarwal represented the Comets in the state championship in the singles division, ultimately achieving the title of state champion and becoming the first girls tennis state champion in Mason history. And whereas the entire Mason community is proud of the accomplishments of the Mason girls tennis team and their hard work, discipline, and commitment to the game of tennis, and is an inspiration to all. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Council of the City of Mason, Ohio, 6 members thereto concurring, Section 1, that the Council of the City of Mason hereby congratulates the Mason High School girls tennis team on the success of their 2021 season.
I need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading.
So moved?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Anyone opposed? Okay, a motion to adopt.
So moved?
Second.
Okay, any council discussion?
Real quick again.
Okay.
Coach Reed and I have had this discussion many a time, especially these guys and the guys and gals have been in front of us in regards to the tennis program. City Manager Hanson and I, we've talked about, if you pull into other communities, you will see plaques that are recognizing the state championships, the teams. I would like to look into that, whatever that, if we rotate them. I think if you have Coach Reed, he has a pretty good idea on how to do it. So I would just like to throw that out there. So if we can, so any entry points into Mason, that we can at least recognize these awesome athletes and their accomplishments.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? I just want to say congratulations again. I think we all know that you guys work really hard at your sport, but you also are very good in the classroom and are required to have a good GPA. So I know that you all work very hard, not just outside, but inside. So thank you very much for all your dedication. Okay, let's have roll call.
Councilmember Bradburn?
Yes.
Councilmember Hackey?
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman?
Yes.
Mayor Spaeth?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nelson?
Yes.
Councilmember Chance?
Yes.
Okay, item 12, Resolution 2022-15, a motion to read by title only, please.
So moved. Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Anyone opposed? Okay, Jeff.
Congratulating Mason High School boys tennis athletes. Whereas the Mason High School boys tennis team had a successful 2022 season, placing second in the Greater Miami Conference, and whereas senior Vignesh Gojineni won the title of 2022 state champion in the singles division, and whereas seniors Anish Gangavaram and Akshay Joshi won the title of 2022 state champions in the doubles division. And whereas all 3 tennis athletes were recognized as part of Southwest Ohio's top players list. And whereas the entire Mason community is proud of the accomplishments of these athletes and their hard work, discipline, and commitment to the game of tennis, and is an inspiration to all. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of Mason, Ohio, 6 members thereto concurring, Section 1, that the Council of the City of Mason hereby congratulates the Mason High School boys tennis athletes on the success of their 2022 season.
Thank you, Jeff. I need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading.
So moved?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Anyone opposed? Okay, a motion to adopt.
So moved.
And
Okay, any council discussion? Again, just congratulations, I think, from all of us. We're very proud of you. Okay, roll call, please.
Councilmember Hackey?
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman?
yes.
Mayor Spaeth?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nelson?
Yes.
Councilmember Chance?
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn?
Yes.
Okay, so now I'm going to ask Coach Matula to come up first, and I'm going to, and then we will have each the coaches come up after each of the team members are introduced, and I'm going to have council come up for a picture too, and we'll just end up staying up there instead of getting up and sitting down, make it easier. So if you will, Coach Machula, if you would like to introduce all your players and have them come up, if you have anything you want to tell about them or, you know, embarrass them, whatever you want to do.
Well, I better, I'll hold off on the embarrassments. First off, thank you, City Council, for recognizing the accomplishments of our team. It is greatly appreciated. I do also want to congratulate our tennis squads. Obviously, what you guys do each and every year sets a bar for not only those that are come after you, but your classmates see what you do. They recognize what you do. I hope that you understand that your accomplishments do not go unnoticed by those that do truly care about student athletes. And I would say that the people that I see in here right now, you know, exemplify what a student athlete is all about and what you have to do to accomplish at the level that you accomplish, and to also stay on top of your academics, again, is not something that goes unnoticed. I have the utmost respect for Coach Reed and what he does. When I saw that the boys had won a couple of championships, I know you girls had done it, and I reached out to Coach Reed just to let him know that people are recognizing the accomplishments, and he reiterated back to me the pride that he had, obviously, in our season. You know, you've already kind of mentioned and hit on the highlights of our season. I think what makes me most proud of what we did this year was kind of represent our community. You know, we had a number of kids who, you know, kind of reached out and said, you know, they had been bottled up for 2 years, you know, and they didn't have an opportunity to go to many games and things like that. And I think the thing that stands out to me was in the state semifinal, or maybe it was the final game, the kids that were, you know, waiting like they were at a concert, you know, outside the doors, and they weren't allowed to get in. And then once the doors swung open, you know, kids were sprinting, you know, to get to seats and to see, you know, people from the past players and you know, community members there. I think that's what makes us most proud. And these girls work. Okay, they just finished up last week, and this is work, okay? They just did 4 days, 3 hours at a time with third graders, fourth graders, and fifth graders, coaching them up, and then we went and played 9 games from Friday to Sunday, 3 at Miami and 6 at Reynoldsburg, and now they're back in the gym this week teaching 6th graders, 7th graders, and 8th graders. So I want to let them know that I'm very proud of them, and again, thank you very much. I am extremely proud to represent Mason. You know, I say this often that I bleed green because I've been around here long enough, and Ashley had to make sure that he let everybody know that because Ashley's not really a spring chicken himself. So that tells you a little bit about how long I've been around here. The girls that I have here tonight, and I'll let them go ahead and stand up. And are you going to need them up here for a picture? Okay. I have Joy Rezig, Kaylin Burley, Ava Minogue, Peyton Black, Madison Parrish, Gabby Rosano, Carly Prowse, Lillian Ehlers, and Braden Johnson. We have some other players that are currently at Young Life Retreat and are going to be coming home tonight, I think 6 or 7 of them. So that's why our numbers are a little bit low today. Thank you very much.
Coach, the one thing that I also noticed when I was at that state game was you have a very young team. You only had 1 graduating senior, is that correct?
Yeah, yeah, we do. And we're going to have a number of seniors back. And then we have juniors and sophomores, and we have a freshman that they're going to push for time. And as we say very often, competition is good. So, yeah, we're relatively young. Looking forward to another great season. Thank you.
That's very exciting. Would you please come up here with your team, and we'll present this with you. Do any of you all have anything you want to say or say about your coach? Well, I'd like to present you this resolution, and we are very, very proud of all of you all. And we'd like to get a picture here. If I'd have all council members to come up, and we'll get a picture.
Where's the guard? You guys get up.
Okay, I'll just have Okay, next, Coach Reed, would you please come up? And if you would talk, a little bit, talk about your girls' team. We'll do the girls first, if that's okay. Yeah, that's great. Okay, you want to go to the podium for us? Sure. We do it however you want to do it. It'll be whatever's easiest, yes.
All right. Well, first of all, before I came here tonight, I was just hoping that I wouldn't have to go after Matula because he's so good at this stuff. And sure enough, here I am. So congratulations to the girls and to Coach Matula. A spectacular season, a lot of fun to watch, and continued success. And thanks for the kind words. City Council, thanks so much for having us. Mayor, thanks. Last time when I was here, I did mention that maybe we should have some championship signs around the city, and that was about 4 years ago. So I thought I got banished from City Council meetings for saying that, so I wasn't going to bring it up, but Councilman Chance did. So anyway, let me introduce myself. Mike Reed, coached the girls for about 12 years now, boys for 8 or 9. And so I get to coach both programs. And let me just let you know a little bit about how the seasons work. The girls play in the fall, boys play in the spring. And we have our state tournament. There's 2 types. There's a team tournament that goes on through the season, culminates with the Final Four. And then there's an individual championship for singles and one for doubles as well. And we've been really lucky to be very successful there. We've had quite a bit of success, quite a few state qualifiers, some state champions, and we've been very successful in the team tournament. And if you're like me, when you hear that, what comes to mind right away is great coaching, obviously. But that's probably not entirely true. And then you think, well, maybe he's just got really good players, and that is pretty much the truth. But I think the people that we've got to acknowledge more than anyone here are the parents of these kids, because some 8, 9, 12 years ago, they put a racket in their kids' hands and gave them a chance to play the sport and to see whether they'd be successful, and they have become that. And then they had to support them the whole time. They gave them tennis lessons and strung rackets and took them to clubs to play. And then they started to have to drive on the weekends to Grand Rapids or Midland or Indianapolis and stay at the Super 8 all weekend while their kids played matches. And so they really, and on top of that, I don't know how they've all done it, but every kid in our program is a fantastic student. GPA, they're off the charts. So great kids. So they've managed to do all these things and with their kids. And then when they get to high school, they drop them off at the tennis courts and they leave them under my guidance, which I'm not sure is the best decision they make. But we do our best to have a great time out there and create a real team atmosphere, more of a family atmosphere. So thanks to the parents for what you've done for these kids and what you've done for our program. And now we're going to introduce the players on the girls' team. And in order to do that, I need help because we have a big team, and I tend to forget some names sometimes. And the real reason is I like to see my kids stress and come up and speak to city council and everyone at the microphone. So introducing some of the kids that were not able to make it today is Sia Dornhecker, recent graduate Sia Dornhecker.
So yeah, Mike Reed just like to put me on the spot like that. So my name is Sia Dornhecker, and I am a graduate, and I'm going to Miami University studying biology. And my job is to introduce all of the girls on the team that were not able to make it tonight, but had a huge contribution to why we have our championships. So first we have Ria Zucci, who's an incoming senior, and she unfortunately cannot make it tonight because she's competing at National Speech and Debate Tournament. So I'm really proud of her for that. Next, we have Shruti Datla, who's a graduate going to Youngstown State University. Then we have Danielle Reed, who's on a bus trip right now coming back from Young Life Camp, and she's going to University of Florida. Next is Danielle Lebedev, who's also going to Miami with me, and she's in Dayton. And Rashi Loney, who's an Indian right now, and she is going to UC. And last, we have Risha Chada, who is an incoming senior. And next, we have Tanya Marla introducing everyone that actually is here.
Thank you, Sia, for that wonderful introduction. So yeah, I'm Tanya Marla, and I'm a senior, and outside of tennis, I'm part of choir, and I'm vice president of Studio. And then I'll be introducing the rest of the team that is here today. So first we have Anna Tonkel. She is a recent graduate. She played first doubles for the team and will be going to Ohio State in the fall for neuroscience on a pre-med track. Then we have Shyla Agarwal, who's a senior. She played first singles for the team, is an avid peer tutorer who is committed to Yale. Then we have Harshita Upaganti. She's a senior, played second singles for the team, and she is an avid participant in NHS. Then we have Swathi Reddy. She's a junior, a dedicated Hope Squad, SIBS, and NHS member. And last but not least, we have Harshita Ganga, who's a sophomore, the youngest member of our team, is a great student and a published author.
Congratulations. Thank you all. Have you come up here as well? We'll present you with your resolution. The other thing I just want to mention is, okay, we talk about academics and your athletics, but you hear how many clubs they're all involved in as well. So they're very involved in a lot of activities besides just the athletics and the academics. All right, I think we'll have all council come over and get a picture. And I have to say to Coach Reed, one thing I like that he said, I heard Pete Rose just say this on TV, that a good coach is because you have great players, right? It is about the players. Okay, thank you. Okay, Coach Reed, we'll have you do the boys now. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, congratulations, girls. The first time I did come to City Council and talk was about 12 years ago, and that was when we had a girls' doubles team qualify for the state tournament, and we hadn't had that in a long time, so that was a big deal. This year, we had 5 of the girls qualify for the state, and Anna Tonkel and Richard Chada finished 4th, and of course, Shyla Agarwal won the state championship. So quite a bit of difference in those 12 years. And so this year, the boys team had 5 state qualifiers. Unfortunately, we didn't win the team championship this year, but I think that I kind of spurred a couple of guys to play a little bit better in in the individual championships. So we had 5 state qualifiers. We had Aaron Dornhecker and Vamshi Singiti, freshman Aaron Dornhecker and senior Singiti qualified for the state as a doubles team. I don't think they won their first round match, did you? But they were there. They're on the state qualifier sign forever. And then we had two state champions. We had a doubles team win the state, and that's Anish Gangavaram and Akshay Joshi. Come on up, guys, and stand up there. Dornhecker and Singiti, come on up. Akshay also won the award this year at the school for the highest grade point average for any student athlete. And Akshay, raise your hand there. Congratulations for that. And I'm sure Gangavaram was right behind him. I'm sure it was a very close race. And then we had another state qualifier, Vignesh Goganani. Come on up. Goganani finished second in the state last year, played the same player this year in the state finals, and reversed that and won what looked like very easily, but he beat a really good player in the best tennis match I've ever seen him play. So congratulations, guys.
All right, thank you very much. Coach, do you have other members of the team here, or are these just friends supporting their teammates? Okay. I was going to say if they're members of the team, we'd like to have them come up as well, but here we go. I'll present you your resolution and ask for council to come up for a picture.
I think to go ahead.
Thank you all very much for coming. We really appreciate it. Hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. Yes. Oh, and there's cookies in the back. You can take more than one, right? Thank you all very much. Have a good season this year. Thank you.
Guess the sheriff's not here. No, he's not going to make it. At his house? Yeah, and he has grandkids.
Okay, Eric, did you have anything else to add to your city manager's report?
No, that concludes it.
Okay. Next would be item number 6, and we did get notification that the Warren County Sheriff, Larry Sims, is not going to be able to be here this evening. He's going to reschedule with us. So we will go on to item 7, which is recognition of visitors. And I just want to remind everybody on the public hearing for Resolution 2022-12, if you have any comments in regard to that, that's the adopting the budget of the City of Mason. If you have something in regard to that, we'll wait to the public hearing. But otherwise, we will now have recognition of visitors if you have anything else. So if anyone would like to come to the podium, yes, please come and state your name and address, please.
Greetings, Mayor Spaeth, members of council, city staff, those in the gallery and listening at home. My name is Shar Pelfrey, 5499 Mason Road. A few quantifying points. I'm a former mayor of this city, having served 16 years on this council, and council's chair of Mason's Downtown Committee my entire tenure. Since downtown had not been revitalized in 25 years, prior to taking this office, this project was a priority. Knowing we were not qualified, nor could act impartially, we hired LSR Consultants, an economic development firm to government and industry. They had no personal connections with Mason's businesses or residents and were able to guide us with unbiased professionalism. We hired Pogemeyer to look at every aspect of Mason downtown, and they provided precise and still current residential and retail recommendations. Mason's Chamber of Commerce had a part, but we and they realized that by the very nature of their organization, they were a pay-for-play establishment representing the interest of the businesses that paid annual dues, as definitely was their right. We held several large community forums filling Mason's junior high auditorium and formed the Mason Merchant Association and the Mason Revitalization Committee, which looked out for the interests of all Mason's residents and businesses. Midstream, in 2008, recession slowed our initiatives, and the project was limited to pedestrian and on-street parking, roadway improvements, an increased overlay district, and an underdeveloped plaza. In 2003, Eleanor M. Gould and the Gould Trust transferred 50 acres to the city of Mason with deed restrictions and covenants attached to the purchase. It was to remain a passive park forever, with no buildings, fences, or structures except for ones related to the maintenance of the passive park. The integrity of the land, as it was transferred to the city from the Gould family, was to be maintained. I did not participate in any of the negotiations with the Gould family as a contiguous neighbor and recused myself from council's vote as a potential conflict of interest. I was, however, aware of the legal restrictions and the purpose. Subsequent to the Gould purchase, Mason's Park Board developed a conceptual plan for the property that complied with the deed restrictions agreed upon by the city and the Goulds. It provided quiet, walking bike paths, enhancing the unique geological and Native American historical features of the property. Several of my neighbors approached me this past month about rumors that Mason was planning on building an art park with a major building and extensive parking and roads on the Gould property. We were also surprised to learn that the Maid Chamber and its Community Development Corporation have asked the city for a grant to appear to have, which includes the Gould Passive Park in an area designated now for new retail and high-density housing. Residents surrounding the Gould Park are deeply concerned about the above and the potential violation of the Gould Park Passive Park restrictive covenants, and we have a number of questions for council. And I'm not asking for an answer this evening. Has the city provided to council the 2003 history and purchase agreement of the Gould property, along with the deed, the covenant, and restrictions, including no buildings, fences, or structures except for the ones related to the maintenance of the passive park forever? Why weren't the approximately 53 surrounding neighbors notified that there was discussion and a potential vote in May and in June of this year regarding the Gould Passive Park as a courtesy and in an effort to be transparent? Why would this council consider giving extravagant preferential treatment to the Mason Arts Council, donating millions of taxpayer dollars to them along with city resources in infrastructure, free prime land, agreeing to be responsible for everything 5 feet and beyond the proposed structure, maintaining forever the roadways, plumbing, electric, sewer, the grounds, the gardens, the green space, etc., on property that does not permit major buildings and was to remain a passive park forever? How can this council justify giving such preferential treatment to one not-for-profit over those else serving the city of Mason? The city considered allowing an art center to be constructed at the Corwin-Nixon Park, which would not have required millions of dollars in infrastructure improvements and is not restricted as Gould Park is restricted. Why is this council going to the Gould Park when there is a far better alternative at Corwin-Nixon Park? Why was the Mason Downtown Keystone Project, whose developers successfully enhanced Loveland, Milford, Hamilton, and Lebanon, rejected by this council when it would have provided millions of dollars to Mason schools, 15,000 to 20,000 square feet of new retail space, and 125 new housing units? This development proposal now includes 60,000 square feet of new retail space and 1,400 new households in downtown Mason, 4 times the retail and 10 times the housing units. Other than Gould's Passive Park, where would this go? Why would this council consider a project which would forever drain the city of taxpayer dollars with such a risky venture, potentially becoming a public blight, with property devaluations funded forever by taxpayer dollars? Note, a recent study in Warren County found that this type of project is not economically viable, and it was rejected. Lastly, why are members of this council, who are also contributing members, as they have a right to be, to the chamber, but why are they involved in discussion about funding the chamber CDC with $180,000? Would this be a violation of public trust and a potential conflict of interest? We are the persons of interest identified in the Gould deed. We do not approve of the proposal use of the Gould Passive Park for a major building development on or for the possible development of the land as part of the chamber's downtown retail and residential expansion plans, as it is a clear violation of the Gould purchase. I do not plan to stay tonight for the discussion of these questions, but we as neighbors and residents are watching remotely. Please know that we have heard talk of initiative petition, litigation, media coverage, etc., because we are serious. And we have doubt about public funds and about the violation of the Gould restrictive covenants, etc. And we'll be back to get answers to these questions. Thank you. And I have, for the public record, I have my copy. If you could put this into council records for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else want to come up to the podium, have anything to say this evening? Yes, sir. Please come to the podium and state your name and address.
My name is Colin Ashley. I live in 4758 Manor Lake Drive, Visual Lakes here in Mason, Ohio. I'd just like to piggyback on some comments that Sharp Elfrey just made. I understand that Maid Chambers Community Development Corporation wants a grant of $180,000 from Mason to promote an increase of households in the downtown Mason area by 1,400 households, and wants to increase retail commercial space by 60,000 square feet. Because of this, I have some questions. First, the majority of this council reversed a contract with a developer who was going to put 125 apartment housing units in downtown Mason and have retail and commercial space of from 15,000 to 20,000 square feet. Do you all agree now, in light of the CDC proposal, that you should proceed with a project that you reversed in December of last year? Second, where are you going to put 1,400 new households in the downtown Mason area? Third, do you plan on using Gould Park for residential and commercial development? I believe before you vote to give $180,000 to promote an increase of 1,400 households in downtown Mason and 60,000 square feet of retail commercial space, you should advertise to hold a public meeting to discuss this significant proposal. Thank you.
Mayor. Thank you. We're just doing recognition of visitors at this time. Would anyone else like to come up and say anything during this time? If there's something specific to this, you can discuss it during ordinance. Okay. All right, I'm going to move on now to item number 8, which is Resolution 2022-12. We have a public hearing, and item number 9 is the second reading. So I need a motion to read by title only, please.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Anyone opposed? Okay, Jeff.
Adopting the budget of the City of Mason for the year January 1, 2023 through December 31, 2023.
Okay, Eric.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This is one of my many frustrations. The title of this ordinance, I think, can be misleading to residents. This is not the city's actual budget. This is what's called the tax budget, which is largely a procedural device that's used to justify state funds that are sent to the city of Mason. So this is a form that we need to fill out and go through to make sure that the state returns some of those tax dollars back to the residents of Mason. That's the primary purpose, but another purpose that is significant, I think, to the city of Mason is also through the tax budget, the city is able to adjust property millage. That's primarily for safety services and then what's called inside millage that goes towards debt service. What this tax budget reflects is we've now have a significant history of keeping the safety millage below what is actually authorized. So we believe that 4.4 mills instead of the 5 mills allowed by the charter will continue to be adequate for staffing and operating fire EMS services. While expenses and service levels are being adjusted, council at our last meeting adopted a resolution setting forth a pretty aggressive and very strategic, thoughtful process to consider response times, safety services, and to do that in a way that's prudent to taxes. So this is a number that may, after some consideration, merit being adjusted. It is below what is authorized and needed for a resident vote. It's also below the effective millage that the city operated several years ago and below the millage of neighboring jurisdictions. So we're pretty pleased that being able to recommend to keep the millage at 4.4 mills. Those two things are the primary purpose of this document. And with that, Resolution 2022-12 is recommended.
Okay, thank you, Eric. I'm going to open the public hearing at 7:46. Is there anyone that would like to come forward to discuss this ordinance? Okay. I'm going to close the public hearing at 7:46 p.m. I need a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Any council discussion? Okay, I need roll call, please.
Councilmember Grossman,
Yes.
Mayor Spaeth,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nelson,
Yes.
Councilmember Chance,
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn,
Yes.
Councilmember Hackey.
Yes.
Okay, we have already done items 10, 11, and 12. So we will go to item 13, which is Resolution 2022-16. I need a motion to read by title only, please.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Anyone opposed? Jeff?
Resolution appointing initial Region 14 representative and alternate representative to the One Ohio Recovery Foundation, Inc. Board.
Okay, Eric.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a relatively simple item of legislation, but with a longer backstory. So in an effort to keep that brief, I think council will recall in 2017, the state's attorney general filed suit, as well as several states did, against drug manufacturers, specifically opioid drug manufacturers and distributors, for damages that had been caused by the opioid epidemic in the state. In 2020, over 2/3 of local governments in Ohio had joined together, Mason being one of those, to sign up for what is known as the One Ohio Collaborative. That is aimed at using the settlement from that litigation, the settlement funds from drug manufacturers to distribute to help deal with the after effects of the opioid crisis. Mason is designated as part of what is called Region 14, as part of Butler, Claremont, Clinton, Greene, Clark, and Madison counties. And part of the mechanism here is each of the regions are selecting representatives that would serve to advocate for that region as far as how funds are being distributed over time. And working through Warren County and the other counties, Greta Hochstetler Meyer has been selected as the designee, and then Karen Shera as the assistant or the substitute. By virtue of that action, Mason has the opportunity to concur with those selections and remain in the collaborative, remain as part of the distribution of funds. Resolution 2022-16 allows Mason to continue to be a stakeholder by lending our approval to those designations.
Okay, thank you. I need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Anyone opposed? Okay, a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, any council discussion? Yes.
Question. How were these representatives, the representative and the alternate, how were they selected?
It came through recommendations via the county. If you look at their credentials, both of them had been serving in the mental health field and with mental health and recovery boards. So I think getting all that buy-in was a series of looking at who was in the pool, county representatives making recommendations, eventually arriving at those two as the designees, and now they're asking all the jurisdictions, and every jurisdiction must approve them to remain part of that.
Okay.
There were several levels of coming down to that.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, I'm glad you asked that question because I had asked Eric that question as well because we have never done this before, correct? This is like,
No.
Yeah, so I didn't quite understand the whole process, so. Okay, I need roll call, please.
Mayor Spaeth,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nelson,
Yes.
Councilmember Chance,
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn,
Yes.
Councilmember Hackey,
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman.
Yes.
Okay, item 14, ordinance 2021-102. I need a motion to read by title only, please.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Anyone opposed? Okay, Jeff?
An ordinance to repeal, amend, and add various sections and chapters of the zoning ordinance and subdivision regulations, and to amend the zoning map regarding downtown Mason zoning.
Okay, Eric?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This ordinance 2021-102, correct? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay, this ordinance has a little bit of history we'd just like to briefly touch on. The genesis of this was actually a charter amendment in 2018. The city's charter had previously contained a restriction on density of residential units, and that was atypical for municipalities that typically legislate that through their planning code and through planning commission. But the charter had like an absolute ceiling on what type of residential density could be considered. The voters voted to take that section out or remove that ceiling. The section remained, but to remove the ceiling to allow council and plan commission the ability to create density districts where that density could be flexible, potentially beyond that ceiling that the charter had previously set. That meant that the city's zoning code was not constructed. It had always been, the terminology had been within that ceiling limit, so there needed to be some mechanisms established how planning commission and council would change the zoning code to allow for those conversations on density to move forward. The result was a series of public input, working with the contractor, with a consultant, and a steering committee to come up with public input for how the zoning code would be adjusted to allow for that. From that process brought us through 2018 to 2021, when ultimately on October last year, Planning Commission looked at the results of that process, the rewriting of sections of the zoning code to account for that density overlay, and recommended moving forward with what became this ordinance. November 8th, council held a public hearing and then voted to table consideration of that ordinance to December 13th. At the December 13th council meeting, council then voted to table it to the February 14th meeting to allow for additional input and questions that may be out there to be considered. Then at the January 24th, a work session was held to solicit additional public input. And then at the February 14th council meeting, so after that work session, council then voted ultimately to table that ordinance that had originally been introduced in October to June 13th, which obviously is today. So the ordinance, to keep it, we've covered this several times, I just wanted to give the overlay of that. It ultimately is to make updates to the zoning ordinance to allow for consideration of different densities of residential units. It also makes some, what I would characterize as technical changes and adjustments to remove some of the barriers or some of the problematic language that has been kind of straggling in some of the zoning districts in downtown to kind of streamline how the zoning code may allow for more creativity and developers in the downtown. That ultimately is where we're at today with Ordinance 2021-102.
Okay, thank you. I need a motion to adopt, please.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, I'm ready for council discussion. Anyone like to go? Yes.
Were there any recommended changes in the meantime while this was tabled?
No, I mean, I'm not aware of any recommended changes. Planning Commission did not have any. I have not heard any from council. And I would have to say, and Kurt may correct me, I've not heard any from the public, any suggested changes or areas that should be adjusted.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, I have a few things I wanted to comment on because I was not on council, well, I guess I was on council when issue 4 passed, but then I wasn't on council till 2 years after that when the process started. And I guess I kind of look at this through a different lens than most people. And I did try to talk to a lot of people to get varying opinions about how the community felt about this. And I really feel like if COVID hadn't happened, we wouldn't be sitting here right now because this would have already been passed a long time ago. So just briefly, I wrote some thoughts down I want to read. So on November 6, 2018, 10,255, or almost 75% of those electors who voted approved an amendment to the city's charter that provided the city flexibility to establish density overlays in key areas of the city. The amendment to the charter allows modifications to the city's zoning code and map. It modernizes standards, removes barriers for property owners to make improvements, provides long-term flexibility, as well as reflects current practices. Since then, the city has been in the process of developing updated zoning regulations for downtown Mason in addition to creating a density overlay district. The proposed draft zoning regulations seek to expand opportunities for redevelopment of property in downtown. And Eric gave us some of the history. The steering committee members were selected on June 11th, 2019, and they were comprised of downtown business owners, residents, and downtown property owners. Between July 2019 and November 2019, the committee met 4 times. The city's consultant then drafted a downtown zoning code for review. And then COVID hit and stopped the process, and it didn't get started back again until about May 7th, 2021, with a steering committee meeting. Unfortunately, many of the members did not participate in that meeting, and so efforts were made to contact them individually to get their input. Then the public hearings began in 2021. Since 2019, considerable effort has been made to provide opportunities for the public to provide feedback, including 2 public meetings, 2 public hearings, 3 additional council meetings, and a public work session. One thing that stood out to me in this is there are several examples of how the proposed zoning changes would have helped current downtown property owners, both business and residential. In 2021, the Zoning Board of Appeals heard 4 cases of properties in downtown that need variances. When a downtown homeowner wants to make an update to their home, they're required to pay a fee and go through the ZBA process. This would not have happened under the revised zoning. The current zoning requires all properties to meet the design and development requirements in the Downtown Mason Designs Guidelines Handbook. Simple changes such as updating a sign or adding a patio cover must be reviewed and approved by Planning Commission. Outside of downtown, this is not required. Just recently, Common Beer, Quatman's, and Luigi's all added awnings, which could have happened faster under the new zoning code by simply working with staff on the changes and not having to go through Planning Commission. Parking requirements would be more flexible under the new code. Recently, a business would have had the opportunity under the new code to work with the city to determine an appropriate number of parking spaces based on their expertise in operating their business. The business owner was required under the current zoning to put in the additional parking spaces at their own expense. This would not have happened under the new code. Development of a vacant property downtown has been delayed because the concept that the owner is proposing for the new building is not allowed under the current zoning. The proposed zoning also protects current resident property rights. The intent of the proposed update to downtown zoning is not to create a vision for downtown or supplement a master planning process. It removes development barriers for existing and prospective homeowners, providing the confidence to make property investments like residents in every other part of Mason. This ordinance should be viewed as a living document that would be amended to remain relevant, limit challenges, and encourage opportunities in downtown Mason. The current zoning dates back to 1998, and it's already been amended 28 times since then to represent hundreds of changes. Should we adopt this zoning tonight, future modifications can be applied to address emerging issues or new and relevant public desires. So when I think about this, I think you all have elected me to be your representative, and in 2018, you all sent a very clear message. The electors wanted for density to be considered in the downtown area and to be changed. And so I think if I sit here and not do anything 3.5 years later, then I'm being negligent of my duty as a council member, because this zoning, if it's passed, does not mean it cannot be changed again once there is a master plan developed down the road. Zoning, we know, changes all the time. Since I've been back on council in December, we've already changed zoning twice for property owners. So zoning happens all the time. Or zoning changes happen all the time. So I just think, for me, I need to support this proposed zoning plan, because I think it's not fair to the current residents and business owners down there now that want to do things and change things and not make it easier for them. I don't think I can sit here and not pass this and allow them to do that while we are looking at what the master plan is going to be down the road. So for me, I am definitely in support of this, and that's, I just needed to say that since I have not been involved in the process. Is there anyone else that wants to say anything before we have roll call?
Mayor?
Yes.
There are a lot of wonderful things in this zoning plan that I completely agree with. I think that what we just saw last year with the density overlay, I don't think that the voters in 2018 meant for a project like we saw almost coming into our community with a huge apartment complex on the corner smushed into that area. So that does concern me. I think that needs to be looked at. I also think, we've been saying we are now moving forward with, our downtown committee is 100% dedicated to changing our downtown. This has been said for years and years and years, and it hasn't happened. And we are moving forward on actually making a change and doing something with our downtown. With that being said, I think we need to wait on our zoning changes to find out what the planner has in store, what he proposes for our zoning before we go ahead and just make changes. Once we make changes, it is difficult then to change something back. I think you can get sued if a business does something and now we're changing it. So I think we just need to, as Ashley has said before, putting the cart before the horse, I think we need to just take a quick step back, look at what this planner has to say, and then move forward with our zoning. So I am going to be voting no for right now, but I definitely expect zoning to come back on the table. If it isn't passed today, I expect it to come back on the table and be passed sooner than later.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Yes.
Mayor, thank you for your comments and your summary of the history of this process thus far, and I agree with you. Delaying this process any further, and even up to this point, has been denial of individual property rights in the downtown overlay district, and not giving them certainty and the ability to make easy, flexible changes, to have ease of change and ease of planning. And I don't agree with the idea that a master plan must be put in place before this zoning update is made. A master plan will simply be a concept plan. It will not be an edict or a mandate that requires the downtown to morph into whatever the master plan is. It'll be a really cool suggestion of what could be, but it cannot overtake the property rights of the individual property owners. And I believe that so strongly as a conservative. And so even if a property owner might choose something that isn't my personal preference, as long as it fits within the zoning and the rules and they're being good neighbors and it's all lawful, I believe that property owner should be able to make that decision. And this change, this update in the zoning code, which is long, long overdue, provides them with some certainty in making decisions moving forward instead of placing them on ice in an uncertain position. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Mayor, real quick.
Yes.
My whole role in this thing as the downtown chair is I want to do exactly, I want to take it out of our hands. We need to just completely depoliticize this thing, and it's been very apparent because not one of us up here, last time I checked, were downtown development planners. So what I have done is I picked up the phone and I've called and I've talked to them. And I asked them the specific question. I said, hey, if we have this zoning that we are looking at and it's ready to go, and I've mentioned this several times when it was first presented, I was the downtown chair when we looked at issue 4, and the zoning is necessary. But every one of them, all three, in a resounding yes, they said, we are not, if it's not pointing to something, if you guys are serious about developing downtown and looking at this as a comprehensive view, and I don't know where we're getting 1,400, I don't know where some of those stats came from, but it just, that narrative is not true. So I wanted to go on record and state that. But we need to understand, I'm not an accountant, I'm a business owner, but I'm not an accountant. And so what do I do when I need counting? I go talk to an accountant. I'm not a financial planner. What do I need when I need financial planning advice? I go to a financial planner. I'm not a lawyer. And so what do I do when I need legal advice? I go to a lawyer. And I think that's something very similar that we need to do here in the city, and we need to adopt it. For 3 decades, I wish Mrs. Pelfrey was still here. Because for 3 decades, as she sat here and said, the chair of the downtown committee, my office has been downtown since 2004, and it looks the exact same, except for 5 different parking spots. And so I think that speaks to what we have done as a city. We've done an incredible job outside of our downtown, but we're having a difficult time figuring that out. And I think what has happened is it's been controlled from the top down, opposed to getting experts in. And so I am all for this zoning, and I think their zoning needs to be addressed 100%. But at the same time, if I want to depoliticize this thing, get it out of our hands, which, as Councilmember Nelson mentioned, we looked at that last year and we saw how that went. And we need to do a better job, and we need to be prudent. We need to do a process that works. I made a trip. Councilmember Hackey and I made a trip to Carmel, Indiana. And if anyone can go over and just visit Carmel, Indiana, I would highly suggest it. And so we spent, 8 hours there? And I mentioned this last time, spent 8 hours there, and I sat down with their economic development, their mayor, all of these different folks, and I said, what was the key to success? And they told me, not do they have one CDC, but they have 3 CDCs. And what does that do? It takes it out of their hands and they come to them. And I think that's the posture that we need to start taking. Opposed to looking at this thing and trying to control it and act like developers up here. We're not developers. We're not developers. And so I agree with the zoning, and I think, I've sat with them and they've done an incredible job. And yes, COVID did stop a lot. It also stopped a lot of momentum that we had with the chamber and with the CDC. And I think if that momentum would have continued, I think that would have been brought to light that maybe we need to look at a different process than the process that we are looking at. So for that, I'm all for looking at the zoning, and I think that's a piece, that is a variable in the equation. But putting that variable in the equation right now, I just don't think it makes sense.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, let's have a roll call.
Vice Mayor Nelson.
So are we voting to untable it? Because I don't think we ever did that.
No, it's been,
Right, but don't we have,
Tabled it to this meeting, so it's.
so we don't have to
it's
vote for
on
it to be
the table.
untabled? Okay, so right now we're just voting on if we're passing the zoning ordinance or not.
And may be worth mentioning, because some comments are made, however you go, defeating this then defeats the ordinance. If you were interested in reestablishing a zoning code, the process would begin again with planning commission, public hearings, readings, et cetera. So this ordinance number goes away and you would start again. You still have the material and,
I was going to say, the work's still there, though, right?
No.
Councilmember Chance.
No.
Councilmember Bradburn.
Yes.
Councilmember Hackey.
No.
Councilmember Grossman.
Yes.
Mayor Spaeth.
Yes. Okay.
Well, with a 3-3 vote, the charter requires 4 affirmative votes, so the motion fails, so the ordinance fails.
Okay, on to item 15, ordinance 2022-70. This is a second reading. I need a motion to read by title only, please.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Anyone opposed? Okay, Jeff.
Authorizing a grant funding agreement between the City of Mason and the Mason Deerfield Community Development Corporation related to the Mason Mile project.
Okay, Eric.
Thank you, Mayor. At our last council meeting, this received a first reading, but it failed to receive enough votes for adoption after the first reading, which is why it's back on the agenda today. So it was discussed at our last meeting. I'll touch on a couple of the highlights. This does authorize a grant funding agreement with the MAID CDC in an amount not to exceed $180,000. The intent of that is to continue the progress they've made to date on what's called the Mason Mile project. Without going through all the history here, the Downtown Committee of Mason has met at various times with the MAID Chamber, as well as members of the public and folks involved with the MAID CDC. And part of the effort there is to continue the momentum that felt that the CDC had achieved with the Mason Mile project. The CDC had asked the city if we were interested in continuing that momentum, and if they should continue to take that on as a project. They were willing to, but needed financial support to maintain that. As a result of those conversations, work together to develop a partnership agreement that recognized both the previous investment of resources as well as the success that the MAID CDC has had to date in primarily building community support for the Mason Mile, as well as a desire to continue their leadership of that project. So the Downtown Mason Mile, I would characterize this initially as the emphasis is on public engagement, the market's role, and while it is not, I wouldn't characterize it as a defined or set list of outputs. It is meant to lean heavily at the beginning on public engagement and allow that to guide further direction, further ambitions that the project may take. You have several exhibits attached here that characterize the CDC's project to date, some of their ambitions. I would caution you that that list of ambitions is not meant to be, you're not providing enough funds to complete all of those ambitions. You're providing funding that allows the momentum to continue, to start picking off some of those priorities as public engagement characterizes those. I would anticipate with successful completion of those, if council authorizes this, that there will be additional opportunities to continue to financially participate in that project as it evolves. This is not meant as a single summer, or I would say even a single year. This is multiple years of leading towards success in the downtown. Downtown Committee of Council did recommend adoption of this ordinance, and is before you tonight.
Okay, thank you, Eric. I need a motion to adopt, please.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. We're to council discussion, and normally I don't like to start the council discussion unless no one else has anything they're saying, but I just wanted to explain to everyone. So at the last meeting on May 9th, as Eric said, we had just the first reading. And we had some members that were not able to attend that meeting tonight. I believe we had 2 people that were missing. And we did have some questions that were already being asked at that point. And I knew because we had some council people who had some family personal family situations going on that were going to require a lot of attention. We had another council member who decided to travel across the pond, and he was gone for a couple weeks. I know that there were some other council members who had some family commitments, and so trying to be like sensitive and trying to think how we can get people's questions answered in a timely manner. A few days later, I asked Eric if he would send an email to all the council members to submit the questions to the MAID CDC so that they would have an opportunity to try to answer those questions. And we originally had asked those be submitted by May 18th. And I do know that there were some people that needed a little bit more time, and I was empathetic to that because I know family situations can be tough sometimes. So June 3rd, we did receive responses from the MAID CDC in response to the questions that were submitted from council members. And I know that there had been a work session requested, but with everyone's situation with our schedules, it was going to be very difficult over the time to get one together. We had 5 weeks from the last meeting to now, and I just thought maybe by doing it this way, we could get as many of the questions answered in a timely manner. And so after the responses were received, we still had about a week, and I asked Eric to send another email to all the council members to quickly respond again if you had more questions to see if the MAID CDC had time to answer those. So I'm hoping that we all have had an opportunity to get our questions answered, and we can just have a discussion on this and go ahead with the roll call. Since I'm talking, I'm just going to say, for me, after what I witnessed last year with the public participation when there was a consideration of a development in the downtown area, I saw so many people in the community, not only coming here, but all over social media, wanting to be able to participate and wanting to have a voice about what this downtown is going to look like and how it's going to change, if it does ever change. And also just wanted to have a little more time. So I do think it's so important that the community is engaged in this process. I do think that, as Councilmember Chance has said, I think we need to take it out of council's hands, out of the city's hands. We need to turn it over to a group that can engage the community in a way that they can come back and then let the city know if there's something that we can do to partner with them to try to move revitalizing the downtown. I mean, it's going to be a difficult thing to do. I do support the grant for the MAID CDC because I think it's going to be very important that the community has something to say about what our downtown is going to look like. And it may seem confusing. I'm voting for the prior ordinance for the zoning, and I'm also supporting this, but I still truly believe that the prior zoning would not have stopped or hindered any of the work that can be done and moving toward a master plan and getting community input. So I'm very much in support of this, and since I've already done my part and said what I'm going to say, I know everyone's got something to say. I'm just going to start down the line here. Okay, Councilmember Hackey, if you would please, just go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. As Councilmember Chance mentioned, we went over to Carmel, Indiana, I don't know, probably 6-8 weeks ago. And one of the things that really struck me with that visit is they have been working for about 20 years on their redevelopment and the work that they've been doing. And if anyone's familiar with Carmel, Indiana, you know that they have done just an unbelievable job of taking that city from what they described as similar to Mason to what it is today. I've lived here in Mason for 20 years, and for the 20 years I've been here, and apparently from what I'm hearing tonight, 30 years, our council has been trying to move our city forward, and the only thing that I see as a positive that's come out of that is a plaza downtown and not much more. And that's not enough. That tells me that City Council is not who should be guiding this process. We need experts. Like Councilmember Chance said, when you need an expert, you hire an expert if you're not that expert. We are not those experts. We need people to guide this process, to make this move forward, to get us to where this city can be, to make us more of a destination than we are today. And I've said that since I moved here. Mason's a wonderful city. Mason has a wonderful downtown, but there is so much more can be to make it more of a destination for people all around our area. And this is what it's going to take. We need people who know what they're doing to help us do that. So I am 100% in support of approving this. So thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I may need to go again. I do have a lot of questions, and I'm sorry I couldn't be here at the last meeting. My mother passed away just a few hours after the last meeting ended, and I had the privilege and honor and hardship all at once of being with her in those moments and caring for her as she had in-home hospice care. And then after that came all the things that go along with the loss of a parent, including packing up her things, and that's taken me all month. And so I haven't been real active with city business, but I did submit some questions that night, and I went through this proposal very carefully over the weekend. And I did request in writing to the mayor twice that I'd like to have a work session with all of council. And that would be so helpful to be able to have that forum with the back and forth, to be able to ask questions out in the open and get answers from the CDC. This is a lengthy document that we were given a proposal. It is, I'm going to be honest, it's kind of confusing. It ebbs and flows in information, and some pieces of information that seem like they should go together are often separated in the packet. And so there's a lot of consultant type language. And so making sense of all of it without a work session and a back and forth dialogue is a little bit difficult, and perhaps could have created misunderstanding. So hopefully, bear with me. Hopefully there isn't any misunderstanding, but I'll do my best. We talked about, just in the last ordinance, delaying, some are of the mind to delay updating zoning, and I think it came out with Member Chance, if I understood him correctly, that delay provides time for more master planning and the CDC functioning. I've heard it repeatedly said that we need to hire experts, but what I'm finding from the questions we submitted to the CDC, and from reading their proposal, is that there is a lack of experience with the CDC. I specifically asked, what projects have you completed? What is your experience with development and downtown revitalization? And the answer is that there isn't any, but that wasn't relevant to what they were proposing. And yet I keep hearing, we can't update our zoning, we have to have a master plan, we have to work with experts, and the experts have to be the CDC. But nobody on the CDC board, to my knowledge, is a downtown development expert. The timeline and deliverables are vague. This is the timeline, this little leafy thing, curvy leafy thing. There's a reference to maybe up to 10 years before we see significant progress, but what we could expect in the next year or two in deliverables is vague. It also states that the budget that they've identified of $180,000 for 2022 would need to be updated, even though they're asking us to pass it today. So I'm not really sure why that statement is in there, unless that gives them maybe that gives them flexibility to change the amounts that they want to spend on certain things. They want to spend that $180,000, if I can find it in this packet, on things like marketing, administrative fees, accounting fees, legal fees, meetings. I'm looking for the correct page on that. I'll find it eventually. And then there's a statement about needing to update it. Sorry, I'm not finding it. It's in here. I know that. It gives a lot of history on how they came about. It mentions recommendations, and it mentions a type of strategic plan. And that question was asked by somebody from council, I don't know, the strategic prosperity plan. Explain the strategic prosperity plan and provide a copy of the plan. And that was the question from council. And the answer is the strategic prosperity plan is a much larger and broader scope of which the Mason Mile is one component. Our work through this grant proposal will serve to refine that component to the SPP. Upon satisfaction of the grant scope of work, we will look to complete the SPP and make it available to the public. Well, we're the agents of the public. We should know what that strategic plan is. We may have some ideas about that. If you look at page 10, Appendix C, Section 2, 2.3, one of the goals listed is to become a property management association. On page 12, Section 6, Item 6.15 is another goal is to assemble a for-profit investment group.
No, I don't.
So I'm asking, why does the public need to fund a private startup venture that's not already established itself of being capable of executing and funding its own goal on that? And is that a proper use of public funds when they're talking about eventually getting to the point where they're setting up for-profit corporations? The 1,400 households, that actually came from this. Mr. Chance said he didn't know where that came from. That's about a 10% increase in overall households in the city. And that is the recommendation from the CDC in this packet, that we need to increase residences by 1,400 households in the downtown district, about a quarter mile from city center, and we need about 60,000 square feet or so of commercial retail space. Now, it is true that the Keystone development would have added about 125 households. So it would have gotten them closer to the goal in their recommendation, and it would have added 15 to 20,000 square feet of commercial real estate space. And by the way, everything in the contract from the Keystone project was consistent with the recommendations in this proposal and consistent with all the studies in the Pogemeyer study in downtown Mason. And a lot of what I'm reading in here is probably from the Pogemeyer study. We asked about that. That was another question. And the answer, let's see, how does the Pogemeyer study fit into the CDC's plans? Answer, goals from City of Mason Commission downtown studies and plans from 1999 to 2010, including the Pogemeyer study, have been factored into the Mason Mile planning scope. So that leads me to another question. Much of the scope of the work described in this document has already been completed by the city and is on file. Now, refresh, update, take another visit, maybe have some more community forums. I think that's all probably okay, and I'd be willing to invest in that. But I would be inclined to invest with a neutral firm that could refresh it, and not to the tune of $180,000. That's a lot of money. And it's primarily designed to market the strategic plans of the CDC, not the public's interest. The CDC is an arm of the chamber. It was created by the Maid Chamber of Commerce. And we need to be really clear, the primary responsibility and interest of the Maid Chamber of Commerce is to represent its paid members. And that's a wonderful thing. They do a great job of it. That's their role. The Maid Chamber of Commerce commissioned the formation of the Maid CDC 501c3, their Community Development Corporation. I don't have a forum to go back and forth and ask, but one of my questions would be, what are the expectations and how does the CDC report to the chamber? But it seems as though from reading this document that the partnership between the Maid Chamber and the Maid CDC is that the CDC carries out the mission of the chamber, the things that the chamber cannot do. Another question I have is, the chamber is a 501c6, and we know that it has a history of advocating for certain pieces of legislation, charter amendments. It has circulated candidate surveys and forums, which has been great because those are tend to be pretty neutral, but it's also sent out surveys to the marketplace asking to rank current elected officials and asking about the possibility of endorsing candidates. And so having said that, it's not always a neutral organization. It makes sense that they're going to advocate for legislation such as tabling and not adopting the zoning changes that we tabled until June 13th, and now we're still not doing anything about it because it's probably not in keeping with whatever their interests are in advancing this project with the CDC. I've got a few notes here I'm looking through because I want to try to make sure I get to everything. And thank you for being patient with me. You know, I want to congratulate the volunteers and the chamber for their enthusiasm and their robust support of small business. And I know that you're probably thinking about this in earnest. And, you know, when I think about it as a leader, I think that gives me a lot of wow factor, your enthusiasm. But it's incumbent upon us to not just look at the wow, we have to look at the hows. And that's part of our responsibility as elected officials. And so I'm looking at this request to use taxpayer funds to market what seems to be more of a private initiative as a development corporation. And I'm wondering, how do we spend public funds? It's counterintuitive to me. Publicly funding for marketing to promote and sell your product or initiative to the public seems unnatural to me as a steward of tax dollars. And I'm concerned it could create a climate of insiders. Whereas when you have the normal government processes, developers, entrepreneurs, landowners, they can come to the city and present their ideas and go through the normal channels. In this case, now we have a community development corporation that it says in their document, they're seeking to coordinate transactions and I don't know what all. They want to be the ones to coordinate, for example, road designs, all kinds of designs. And some of those things really are government functions, so I feel like that's a workaround. Another concern I have is about another charter amendment that was passed. That was Charter Amendment 14, and that was passed not charter amendment, it was issue 14 that was passed this past November. A little relic from that. Issue 14 was about transparency in real estate transactions. And I don't know how this foots. To me, this seems like ensuring transparent real estate transactions with the public is going to be more difficult with a third party involved. And I'm concerned about that. And I don't know how this works and foots with Chapter 125 and with this charter amendment. And so I just have a lot more questions that would have been better in a work session. And I'm sure it's really boring to do this in this format right now. But these are important things that we need to get out in the open for the taxpayers. Another concern I have are about finances. So the CDC has made it clear that in order for them to proceed with their initiative, they need funding. Typically, and this is a question that we asked, I know I asked it, I don't know if anybody else did, about the 2-to-1 match requirements that we normally have with nonprofits. Since 2007, the city has had a policy of requiring a 2-to-1 dollar match when it gives grants to nonprofits. So the question was, does the CDC meet the City of Mason's 2-to-1 match standard for the contributions to nonprofits? And the answer was, this is an accountable grant, not a contribution of general support to made to CDC. As such, it is our understanding that the 2-to-1 match standard is not relevant. I disagree. I think it's very relevant. And to me, it's concerning that if $180,000 is what they believe is needed to market this startup venture, and they haven't demonstrated an ability to raise those funds privately. So I'm concerned about that. And they did provide us with some financial records to indicate that. They're nowhere close to a 2-to-1 match. First of many phases, again, the language about that is oblique, timing, deliverables. It's oblique in this presentation. And Mr. Hansen referenced that when he was giving us the overview. So that indicates to me they'll be coming back for more funding, but I don't know what that is and what that looks like. And it does say in the document there's going to be some overlap, and it's just not really clear. And I think when you're talking about a grant of this magnitude, this needs to be crystal clear, and we need to have a work session, in case I didn't mention that we need to have a work session again. Just checking my notes. The government oversight issue again, even with monthly expenditures, we have to give monthly reports as a city on what we spend. And that's not required in this document, the scope of this work. And finally, I will just say that in some of the whereases in the legislation and in the appendix, I just object to some of the clauses. And I won't go into all of that just right this minute. I would advise council, though, I'm probably going to ask for the floor about those clauses after we hear from other people, but I would advise council that it would be wise, with so many unanswered questions, that we table this and have a work session first before we vote on it. So I'm going to make that motion to table this ordinance until after we can have a work session on it. Is there a second for that? Is there somebody that would second it?
Okay, have you made all your
Well,
comments?
made
I'm
them
ready to
for
move
now.
on. I'm ready to move on. Are you ready, Vice Mayor? I'm just going to go on down the table.
We were given, the downtown committee was given the revitalization program for Mason, as well as, I believe, Loveland, Lebanon, Hamilton, and Milford. And in all of these studies with different developers, different planners, I believe all of them, maybe except for one, all of them said that we need to create a CDC in order to help develop our downtown. It is in the Pogmeyer revitalization plan that everyone keeps referring to. It clearly states that we need to establish a community development corporation to undertake certain projects consistent with the downtown plan. CDC, and then it just goes on about how important the CDC is for downtown development plan. We have failed for many years, and we have to remember the downtown development. Downtown does not belong to the government. Downtown belongs to the people, and it makes it very difficult for the government to try to step in and develop a downtown. We need to put this in someone else's hands. We need to try something different. We've been doing the same thing over and over again, and we still have a downtown with nothing. The only thing we've done in like 10 years, I think, is, add the plaza, which up until recently with Music and Mason, like, what was the point of it? You just drove around it. So we need to definitely do something different. We need to step out of the box. And, we're giving money to the CDC to manage this. We're giving $180,000 to them. We've spent $200,000 on a dog park and $24 million on a pool. So $180,000 to see if this can take us somewhere, to me, is worth the money. And we totally haven't just stepped back, and we're still going to have some say in things, which makes it important. But really, politics has stalled development in downtown for many years. So we need to take politics out of it, give it to somebody else, and let them run with it, and let's see what happens, because we haven't done anything since. So I will be voting for this.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Councilmember Chance.
Yeah, I'll be very brief. I'm in full support of this for many reasons.
Okay, Councilmember Bradburn.
I'm not going to be quite as brief. I had the opportunity to ask some questions. Did get the financials for the last 3 years, which I did request. But I think basically you need to go through the Mason Mile, Mystery Mile, Mythical Mile, I don't know what you want to call it. Basically, if you go to page 13, bottom of the page, this is a market study. This is all this is, ladies and gentlemen. It's a market study. Precisely, okay? And the bottom line is, this ordinance is a taxpayer-funded market study to enhance the property values of select connected property owners, period. We'll go ahead and show some videos. I got some videos to show. I think you might enjoy them. We're not ready yet. Kurt, not ready yet, okay? If you go to page 9, Appendix A, which I've typed out here at home, talks about community development model, identifying underperforming areas, organize stakeholders and vision for the future, assess the will and the way to make the vision reality. And interesting word here, rework, if no will or way. What's that mean? Simple, more taxpayer money. Page 10, collaboration, purpose, legitimize the project. You have to legitimize the project? You tell me it's illegal to begin with? Task, let's look at task. Identifying, get contact information for all residents and property owners. Identify, categorizing existing businesses within downtown nexus. Identifying champions to organize. Photograph the exterior of all Mason Mile buildings. Count parking spaces in the Mason Mile. I didn't know parking spaces disappeared. Compile data for a Mason Mile map. Schedule quarterly Mason Mile meetups. Develop Mason Mile, so on. And then, we're going to put a mural up there. We saw how that worked. I wasn't on council when that thing went up and then got painted over. But governing. Under governing, it says task, 2.2. Become property management association. That's not a taxpayer responsibility. And the taxpayer shouldn't have to pay for that. And perform a comprehensive market analysis. Once again, marketing for a few select individuals. Develop and redevelopment. Goals, enhance the appearance of downtown. I was on council when we did our first downtown improvement. We had a lot of promises. I have to say to the Yost Pharmacy, you followed through. You did your building. You did what you said you would do. I should say your dad, okay? Okay, you can take credit for it. But other than that, what did we do? We tore down the trees, put the underground utilities in, and a lot of ugly buildings were exposed. Talks about create hundreds of new jobs, 5 to 25 new retail spaces, add hundreds of downtown residents, 75 to 500 urban living units. Well, when I hear that, I see that, and after 23 years as an elected official, not all of it here, my question is, can you spell eminent domain? So next thing you'll have is a council using eminent domain for who knows who. And I guess task number 6, 6.15, assemble a for-profit investment group. That's not what government's about. That's not what the taxpayers' money should be used for. But we've got some videos that some people have spoke to us at council, and I find it a little disturbing because it's obvious that I try to represent all the people, but not a select group. Kurt, can you play number 1?
Clarification. Anyone else here that wants to speak in favor of and please state your name and address. Thanks. Sure.
Good evening, Vice Mayor Gill, members of council and staff. My name's Sherry Taylor, and while Councilmember Chance did point me out as being from the chamber, that is my full-time gig. I'm actually here tonight. I'm a volunteer for the MAID CDC. And I'm here tonight on behalf also of our board of directors, which is comprised of John Kramer, Scott Jones, and Randy Kuven. And just so the public knows, MAID CDC is a nonprofit. It's a community-driven nonprofit organization that's established to coordinate the public and private efforts to grow the entire Mason-Deerfield region into a more dynamic, healthy, and resilient place. So we attended the October 5th Planning Commission meeting as the representative of 10 individuals who collectively own about 10% of the downtown properties that are under consideration for the rezoning this evening.
That's good.
Their collective
That's good. Selected owners, 10. Seems like a special interest group. Let's play number 2, if you would.
2019, but somehow the zoning amendment arrived at Planning Commission without those property owners and many others providing their input. Unfortunately, the Planning Commission ignored our request that evening and allowed the zoning amendment to continue on. And just so everyone knows, one part of our mission is to aid in the pursuit of good governance. And while it can be sometimes painful for organizations to admit mistakes, neither does it serve the community well to ignore them when they happen. It seems in the haste to move the proposed zoning amendment forward on the night of October 5th, the Planning Commission made significant errors in the execution of their duty to review and evaluate it. The city's zoning ordinance, in particular the part that deals with how to process a zoning amendment, has some very precise and we believe obligatory steps that appear to have been ignored. And while it's possible the city council is unaware of these 12 steps, which are sort of the mandatory checklist Mason City Council put in place in 2004, we're here to make sure that council knows now. Also, in the interest of good governance, we want to encourage you to carefully consider how that potentially faulty approval process affects the implementation of the zoning code amendment that now sits before you. We have grave concern of the impact the improper adoption of a zoning amendment could have on the advancement of the objective that everyone is seeking, a healthy, vibrant, sustainable heart of our community. So we're here tonight on behalf of the entire community asking the City Council to slow down, take the time necessary to ensure the proper process, the one that is required by the city's zoning code, was followed by each of its statutorily required actors before making a decision that allows it to continue. In other words, we want to encourage you to take extra care tonight to ensure you, the City Council, don't unintentionally violate your own zoning code. We're asking you to take a step back and look at everything from the original objective to the public engagement process to the manner in which the proposed amendment is being evaluated, and ensure that you are confident council is pursuing the best outcome in the most proper and, of course, lawful way. At the same time, in the event that you discover what we believe to be true and you are looking for an alternative approach, we want to reiterate our offer of assistance in pursuing a solution that emphasizes public involvement and proper process. We would be happy to involve the government in the planning process we've been pursuing on behalf of our property and business owners downtown for quite some time. And if you want more information on that, what that might look like, we'll be happy to meet with you at a further meeting to discuss. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone has any questions or?
I think that's enough for now.
Councilmember James.
Let's go to the response, if I can, of Eric Hansen and Jordy Bacon in regards to that comment.
I'm not sure the accusation is against the city staff not doing proper work.
No.
They didn't follow their own process or code. And I'm trying to figure out what steps exactly were missed. So maybe somebody from the city, I don't know if it's Eric or Kurt, or if we could get Jordy or Liz, somebody that could, Liz ain't with the city anymore, to maybe comment on if you think we missed a step at all, to kind of answer this accusation saying that somehow we misfollowed. I know that Ms. Taylor said that this started in 2019, but it did start in 2018. So we've got a 3-year process of reaching out to the community, having community involvement. I think, Ms. Taylor, you yourself are part of the steering committee.
Nope.
You are not part of the steering committee? I thought you told me at a downtown committee you were.
Nope. I was a liaison to the process, but I was never on the steering committee.
Okay, so we had 11 members on steering committee, and at the last meeting, only 2 showed up. So we had problems with it wasn't an issue with the city not reaching out to people. There were double emails sent out trying to get people included. There was just a lack of interest or commitment from the community to handle something like zoning.
Well, Vice Mayor,
So
can I
if
speak
I
up?
could get an answer first from the city. Did you think we mishandled any step? Did we misstep? The violation of a code, our own code, did we mess something up here that we need to go back and fix?
I did not attend the planning commission meeting, so I'm not sure I can really speak to that. I'm not aware of any missteps. I don't know if Jordy or Brian at the planning commission.
Well,
Councilmember Chance, hang on a second. Jordy, go ahead. Oh, yeah, sorry. So I'm not personally aware of any missteps. I've been looking through Chapter 1137 when Liz Taylor was speaking.
And I believe what she's referring to, but please correct me if I'm wrong, is there's a list of things the Planning Commission should consider in their evaluation of a zoning code amendment. It's not limited to the following criteria, but it's just part of what they should consider. And there's a number of things here about the goals and policies, future land use, proposed zoning districts. As Ms. Taylor mentioned, it's 1137.3, but it's not a checklist. It's just a criteria evaluation to consider.
Thank you. Councilmember Chance, do you have anything?
That's fine on that. You know, I think we have a very capable person at the Planning Commission, Dick Staton. Met him a few times. I haven't heard anybody have a derogatory comment in regards to how he conducts that meeting. We also later had a follow-up letter from, as I recall, our law director in regards to a review of that. Is that not correct, Mr. Forbes?
Yeah, I believe that's correct,
That everything was followed properly? Yes, even though there's the insinuation that it wasn't. Kind of a credibility issue, but we'll go on from there, I guess. Let's look at number 4, Mr. Chris Romano.
Go ahead.
Hi,
Thank you.
my name's Chris Romano, and I'm here as a volunteer for the Mason Deerfield Community Development Corporation. Address is 316 West Main Street. And as the mayor pointed out, Sherry Taylor intended to be here and do this, but she's ill today. So I can tell you the meeting that we had with the committee the other day, the Downtown Committee of Council. At that meeting, we reiterated our concern with this process and reiterated that that concern is, in essence, that the part where we decide upon the rules for new development, which is essentially what the zoning process lays up, seems a bit out of place when the entirety of the community hasn't decided on what we should aim for in the downtown. And it's been our supposition that if we can get...
Yeah, that's fine. Can you go to the next one? Mr. Romano indicated that he was a volunteer, but Mr. Romano's a little more than a volunteer. If we go to his Verity Management Group, we go ahead and look at what happened up in the Lebanon area. He's a developer. So you've got an alleged person who says he's a volunteer, but he's working on the inside. I kind of call that inside baseball when you're doing that. You know. So the bottom line is we can go into. Can I continue, Mr. Chance? You
Sure.
please, thank you.
Well, you're complaining about not getting professional
No,
opinions.
I'm not.
and when they do, then you-
Okay, I'm going to ask both of you, continue, please. Councilmember Bradburn,
Thank you,
please.
Mayor. So, you know, it becomes obvious that in this situation, we're going to give money to an organization that has been working with an individual that, and this organization also has made a presentation to another governmental agency and been rejected. Can we play number 5?
From the MAID CDC here.
This is the Mason, or I'm sorry, this is the Deerfield Township meeting that the chamber, the MAID CDC made a presentation. They made a presentation on May 21st, 2019.
John Kramer, I'm trying to
to
stall a little bit.
their
because I know
board
John wanted to actually
to
make
go
some
ahead and
opening comments. John
be
Kramer
their,
is the board chair of the CDC
almost their
right now.
development agency, kind of
He'll be
like,
giving
I
an
guess what
overview
we're
of
hearing here in
it
Mason.
shortly.
But,
Maybe before getting to that, just kind of touching
what I
base
wanted
on
to
the
show
purpose
was
so that
the
you all know what it is that
tenor.
we're hoping to achieve tonight.
I assume you have the last few minutes there, Kurt. Are you aware?
As successful as the previous 20 have been. And to do
that, we believe that we need to have all of the important partners contribute to that.
Okay, it's a little weak, but I wanted people to see, the public,
Yes, so
that
thank you for
that
coming,
it
and
was
we'll get
a
our
cordial
answers to
meeting,
you. I think we
a
just need a
cordial
little bit more
discussion
time to digest.
of a proposal. But shortly after,
Thank you all. As you said, thank you all
There
for
you go.
your
That's
initial
it.
commitment
Meeting,
as well
cordial.
on our original economic development.
can you pull up the next document,
project. So
Kurt?
Appreciate all that time.
Yeah, it's a PDF. Yeah. Let's scroll down to the bottom. Scroll up just a little bit more. Just a little bit more. So you saw it was a cordial meeting, but this is a letter that came back to Deerfield Township from the CDC, some of the same players. We have never left a meeting with a team that felt more belittled and disrespected. Mind you, much of that hostility and rudeness was directed at a college student and extern. As leaders of this team, we take that personally. We came before you last night with one ask, to give us your input on an initiative Deerfield Township asked us to volunteer our time for. We did not come asking for money, and there's a little backstory to that. We do not come asking you to enact an ordinance to help us. We came to listen. I know that we left you with a questionnaire that was intended to lead our discussion last night. There is no need to fill it out, and if you do, we won't read it. Your hostility, rudeness manifested your feelings towards our efforts. Please know that we will not hold your actions against those who you purport to serve. We will continue to engage the leaders and citizens of Deerfield Township in our visiting process. Same thing, despite the glaring absence of their government leaders. Sincerely, John Kramer, Randy Kubin, Scott Jones. I find that kind of disturbing if it's a professional organization. I was criticized when I tried to bring it up at a work session that it should have never been read. The letter should have never been written. But let's go on to number 6. Have you got a copy of the, there should be more to it. He doesn't have, here we are. I'll read it. This is from the Mason Deerfield Chamber Development Corporation. This is the W-9 in regards to what they are. You'll notice that they've marked it as a C corporation. That's for profit. Per the W-9 form that was filed with the City Mason, the MAID CDC has shown is that they were a C corporation. As a C corporation, that entity is required to obtain a unique EIN number. A C corporation entity is required to file a Form 1120 income tax form. A C corporation cannot file a Form 990 since these forms are for nonprofits. As a C corporation for profit that cannot use an EIN number for a nonprofit entity. It appears the EIN number for the Mason Downtown Association, number 270091032, has been used for the filing of various forms of the 990 long form and the 990 easy form. I don't know what to say. That's on file with the city. So, where does this leave us? Well, CDCs can be good and CDCs can be bad. We've all seen issues with CDCs. City of Cincinnati. I think before we go ahead and do that, we obviously need to clean up some issues here if we go ahead and with that. But we've seen sometimes where council has not, sometimes this stuff gets reported. Sometimes stories get reported by the news. Could you play number 7? Yeah.
It was supposed to be a golden opportunity to develop downtown Mason, but in May, just 1 month after a majority of City Council approved the deal, the council killed it. Investigative reporter Craig Cheatham is live right now in studio with a look at why the council reversed itself. Craig?
Craig, the City of Mason believed 2 downtown properties could be the key to developing a large project in the heart of downtown. Now the deal is dead and the mayor is defending himself against an allegation that he had a conflict of interest. The properties are owned by businessman Ramesh Malhotra and are next to 4 acres owned by the City of Mason. Mayor Victor Kidd, who was involved in negotiating the deal, signed a previous unrelated private real estate transaction with Malhotra. Kidd signed it as a sole representative of his church. Councilwoman Kathy Grossman argued that created a conflict of interest that put the city at risk for a lawsuit. Council decided to kill the deal with Malhotra.
I wasn't born yesterday. I had a feeling that it would not go over well for me to raise red flags about that particular transaction.
Really. Kathy Grossman told the I-Team Malhotra owed Kidd $500,000 from the previous private land deal and that he should have disclosed everything up front. But Kidd told me Malhotra doesn't owe him anything and that money from the sale go directly to that church.
Kurt?
Kidd and his supporters say Kathy Grossman.
I would love to see the end of that.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Okay.
Grossman is
Okay, just 12
targeting
seconds.
him in a personal vendetta, which she denies. The I-Team investigates the so-called death of Mason's golden opportunity tonight at 11. Craig?
So obviously, sometimes things get tangled up. This was before I was on council. Didn't know anything about it. But we need to be very careful if we go ahead and spend city funds for CDCs. Because the next thing is, you know, it can sometimes be handled by the I-Team, or sometimes it gets handled by number 8.
Councilmember Bradburn? Or...
No, he.
Oh. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you move back? Okay.
So, ladies and gentlemen, at this point in time, without further investigation, I'm a no-go. Thank you.
Okay, let's have a roll call, please.
Mayor?
I've called for roll call, please.
I have some follow-up questions, Mayor.
I'm going for roll call, please.
Councilmember Chance?
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn?
No.
Councilmember Hackey?
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman?
No.
Mayor Spaeth?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nelson?
Yes.
Okay, moving on. Item 16, Ordinance 2022-78. A motion to read by title only, please.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Anyone opposed? Okay, Jeff?
Sorry, 78.
Yes.
Ordinance 2022-78, approval of the replat for Lot 1A in the Tower Park PUD subdivision.
Okay, Kurt?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. This is a replat of Lot 1A into 2 lots, which will become lots 1C and 1D. Both are just over an acre in size, and each lot will have access off an internal private roadway system. The plat will also rename the private roads within the Tower Park development to WLW Connector and AM Boulevard. And Jennifer, I don't know if you want to switch that back. I can show this for... So WLW Connector will be the east-west road, and then AM Boulevard will be the access point off of Tylersville Road. With that, I think there is, I believe, yep. So both lots meet zoning, and access points will not be on Tylersville Road. They'll be off of the private drives within the development. With that, Ordinance 2022-78 is recommended for adoption. It was at the Planning Commission meeting last Tuesday, June 7th. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
All right, thank you. I need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Anyone opposed? A motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
Any council discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Councilmember Bradburn,
Yes.
Councilmember Hackey,
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman,
Yes.
Mayor Spaeth,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nelson,
Yes.
Councilmember Chance.
Yes.
Okay, item 17, ordinance 2022-79. I need a motion to read by title only, please.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Anyone opposed? Okay, Jeff?
Authorizing the acceptance of certain donated easements and the acquisition of other certain easements as part of the Snyder Road Widening Phase 2, Western Road to US 42 Improvement Project.
Okay, Kurt?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. This is for easement acquisition for Snyder Road, south of US 42 down to Western Road. This is a project we've looked at for probably the last 10 years, off and on, whether to widen it to 3 lanes or 5 lanes or 4 lanes. In the end, the studies that we've done have shown that 3-lane section will be adequate with a bike path down the side of the road as well. We are actively pursuing OPWC funding for the project. We have the design is probably 90% or better, and we are ready to start to acquire the right-of-way for the project and the easements. We really only need 1 permanent easement, and then the rest are just temporary easements for the project. So all in total, even though there's 35 parcels touched, current estimates for those easements are just over $30,000. We did have money in the 2022 budget for this expense, and Ordinance 22-79 is recommended for adoption. I'll answer any questions you have.
Thank you. I need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Anyone opposed? I need a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second?
Any council discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Councilmember Hackey,
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman,
Yes.
Mayor Spaeth,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nelson,
Yes.
Councilmember Chance,
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn.
Yes.
Okay, item 18, ordinance 2022-80. A motion to read by title only, please.
So moved? Second?
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Okay, Jeff?
Authorizing the city manager to prepare and submit applications to participate in the Ohio Public Works Commission State Capital Improvement and/or local transportation improvement programs and to execute contracts as required.
Okay, Kurt?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. I'd like to discuss Ordinance 80 and 81 together. Both are related to OPWC funding for projects. What we're proposing is pre-applications for Snyder Road, project I just discussed, Phase 2. In the pre-application process, we do a pre-application this year and then a final application next year, funding the following year. So this would be for 2024 funding. Would be that project. And then Maro Millgrove Bridge is actually a county bridge that's located between the entrance to Mason Sports Park and the water reclamation plant, kind of in the curve, and it goes across the Muddy Creek. Their latest inspection this year identified some of the outer beams on that bridge, specifically on the north side, have some deterioration to where they needed to load rate the bridge. So there's new signs that were up that limit the loading that can go across that bridge. So you may see less of the 3 and 4 rear axle, very large dump trucks going across that bridge now, and it needs to be replaced in the next several years. So they are submitting for that. What our part of that would be is a cooperation agreement where we would fund a portion of that to be able to widen the bridge so that we could get pedestrian access across the Muddy Creek as well. So we could extend that bike path from the sports park across the front of the water reclamation plant over to Stone Ridge Drive. So with that, then our final application that we're submitting this year is for 741 Resurfacing Project. That's the resurfacing from the Kroger access point over to I-71. With that, we're hoping to replace the concrete median out in front of Mason grand with landscaped median and some other improvements out there that will help to make that a better front door into Mason, specifically for tennis tournament, visitors to Kings Island, things like that. So that project, that'll be that OPWC funding will help with our local match to the already funded 80-20 split with ODOT for the urban resurfacing program. So this would be additional grant funds towards that project. So with that, Ordinance 2280 is for our pre-apps. Ordinance 2281 is for the co-op agreement with the Warren County Engineers Office. And with that, I'll answer any questions you have.
Okay, thank you. Motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Yes.
Anyone opposed? A motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second?
Any council discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Councilmember Grossman?
Yes.
Mayor Spaeth?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nelson?
Yes.
Councilmember Chance?
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn?
Yes.
Councilmember Hackey?
Yes.
Okay, item 19, ordinance 2022-81, a motion to read by title only, please.
So moved. Second?
All in favor?
Yes.
Anyone opposed? Okay, Jeff?
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a cooperative agreement with the Warren County Commissioners to submit an application for the Ohio Public Works Commission District 10 grant for Mason Maro Millgrove Road Bridge replacement.
Okay, Kurt, you've already discussed this one, so I need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading, please.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Motion to adopt.
So moved?
Okay, any council discussion? Okay, roll call.
Mayor Spaeth?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nelson?
Yes.
Councilmember Chance?
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn?
Yes.
Councilmember Hackey?
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman?
Yes.
Okay, item 20, ordinance 2022-82, a motion to read by title only, please.
So moved?
Second?
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Okay, Jeff?
Amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Mason, Ohio to add Section 133.05 regarding city manager purchasing authority.
Okay, Jennifer?
Yes, Mayor, members of council, on March 25th, council members received a memo that kind of outlined some of the struggles that have been faced by city staff in regards to our purchases for goods and services, some of the inflationary impact that we're seeing, but more importantly, there's just been an uptick in council legislation with emergency clauses, and that's been due to the fact that historically, when we go out for a bid or a quote, those quotes are usually good for 30 to 60 days, but with the current economy, supply chain issues, the vendors are indicating that those quotes are only good for days, weeks at the most. And so by the time that we can get the quote together and get legislation before council, those prices have gone up significantly, or the good or product may no longer be available. Based on that, the Finance Committee was asked to review the city's purchasing authority limit. The purchasing authority limit is a threshold whereby any purchase that exceeds that limit must be presented to council as a piece of legislation for council's approval. The city charter provides council the authority to establish this limit. Let me give you a little history here. In the 1990s, the limit was at $5,000 and was increased to $10,000. Then in 2002, council moved to increase that amount to $15,000, where it remains today. The Finance Committee, as part of their review process, did reach out to seek comparables for other communities, what they were doing, along with the state of Ohio. In comparison, in 1999, the state of Ohio's purchasing authority was $15,000 for non-charter cities. That amount was raised in 2012 to $50,000. So the city's purchasing authority over time gets diminished as the cost of goods and services increase. More recently, especially over the last several years, it has greatly been diminished due to factors such as COVID and the disruption of resources and supply chain, the federal stimulus, and even today's where we're seeing inflation at an all-time 40-year high. That's all reducing the city's ability to purchase goods and services and the purchasing power and the limit that we have. The Finance Committee is recommending increasing the current limit from $15,000 to $50,000, which was similar to other comparable cities of ours.
They also recommended that the ordinance have incremental adjustments based on the city's annual COLA increases. This is similar to what the city does for other fees and user charges for city services. With that, ordinance 2022-82 is recommended for adoption.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. I need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading.
So moved. Second.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, any opposed? A motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second?
Any council discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Nelson,
Yes.
Councilmember Chance,
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn,
Yes.
Councilmember Hackey,
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman,
Yes.
Mayor Spaeth.
Yes. Item 21, ordinance 2022-83. A motion to read by title only, please.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Anyone opposed? Jeff?
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Flock Safety for the purchase and installation of 20 Flock safety devices for the police department.
Okay, Jennifer.
Yes, Mayor, members of council, in 2009, grant funds were used to purchase the city's first license plate reader. That system was beneficial in that it allowed for a proactive approach in searching for missing persons, stolen vehicles, and identifying individuals with active warrants. The downside of the system was that it was a singular module system that could only be used in one police cruiser, and the new technology often suffered inconsistency issues and problems. In 2017, ultimately, the police department discontinued use of the system. Since that time, there has been significant advancements to the technology. It is more widely used by most police agencies and has become a more reliable source of information. Departments currently using it include Blue Ash, Springboro, Middletown, Warren County, and Hamilton counties are also likely to begin moving to this new technology soon. The new technology is cloud-based, requires less maintenance. The cameras can be positioned in the most vulnerable areas around the community, such as the community center, the aquatic center, and Mason Parks. The new technology not only reads license plate, but also can analyze make, model, and color of vehicle. The technology has expanded and has the ability to pair with the in-car camera systems currently used in our police cruisers in the near future. Finally, the technology, probably one of the most significant things about the technology, it allows for a coordinated network that we can collaborate between departments such as Blue Ash, Springboro, and Middletown in our effort to apprehend offenders. Information captured by the system is processed through the National Crime Information Center. With Ordinance 2022-83, it is to purchase 20 Flock system devices at a cost of $57,000. That also includes installation and a first-year licensing fee. In addition, it includes annual licensing fee in the amount of $50,000 thereafter. The 2022 budget included $60,000 for this purchase. Ordinance 2022-83 is recommended for adoption. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. I need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading.
So moved. Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Anyone opposed? Okay, a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, any council discussion?
Mayor?
Yes.
If I may, I hate to admit
Yes.
it, I was on council when we bought the first one.
You're what?
I was on council when we bought the first one in 2009, so
Okay.
I guess the police were able to get some use out of it. That's all I've got.
Okay. I have a question, just because I'm curious. I just think this is so interesting, the technology that just continues to come out. So this is like a small device, I guess, and it's not something that could be placed on a traffic signal, right? Or it's, like you mentioned the community center. I mean,
No, it could be.
Oh, it could be.
It's a small device, yeah, that
Okay.
could be on the poles, above poles or on traffic.
and it just will automatically notify our police officers that this is like a stolen vehicle. Like, that's just amazing to me. I'm sorry, but I read that and I was like, oh my gosh, that is so awesome. Okay. Does anybody else have anything else they want to say? Okay. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Chance,
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn,
Yes.
Councilmember Hackey,
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman,
Yes.
Mayor Spaeth,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nelson.
Yes.
Okay, item 22, ordinance 2022-84. I need a motion to read by title only, please.
So moved. Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Anyone opposed? Jeff?
Accepting a bid and authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Rumpke Waste Collection and Disposal Systems for the waste collection and disposal of certain solid wastes within the city of Mason, and amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Mason, Ohio, Section 961.04, charges and billing for rubbish and waste collection.
Okay, Jennifer.
Yes, Mayor, members of council, I'm going to spend a little bit more time on this ordinance because it is significant. It is a service that the city provides to our residents. As a municipal contract for private waste hauling collection, when the city does this for our residents, we're able to save our residents significant money compared to unincorporated areas, as well as effectively remove waste throughout the city. The city's contract with Rumpke was entered into on May 1st, 2017, and it expired on April 30th, 2022 this year. When we put this contract out for bid or create the bid specs for it, we often work with the Warren County Solid Waste District. The Warren County Solid Waste District assists local jurisdictions in understanding any new changes in the industry as well as newest trends in recycling or just waste removal. They keep local data for the haulers in the region. They're just a very valuable resource to us as part of this bid process, and often review the language for our bids as well. In early March, the city let out our bid for these services. We distributed to 3 vendors, Rumpke, Republic Service, and Waste Management. As always, we held a pre-bid meeting on March 14th. To any interested haulers, whether they could come in, they could sit down with city staff, learn more about the services we were wanting to provide for our residents. Rumpke was the only hauler that attended that pre-bid meeting, and they were also the only one that eventually submitted a bid on April 5th. When we reached out to other vendors to figure out why there wasn't more bids submitted, basically they indicated to us it's just primarily the distance of their hauling operations and landfill from Mason that created just not the incentive for them to place a bid. They also indicated that it would have been a little more helpful if they had been given a lengthier period of time to learn about the bid and respond to the bid. They wanted 6 months, and that's something we'll consider as we move forward in future years with that bid process. This is not the first bid process for waste and recycling services where Rumpke is the sole bidder. What was unusual about this instance was Rumpke included exceptions to the language in the city's bids. Now, the city's bid has used that, or the city has used that bid document that dates back to the 1990s. So this was rare. We really didn't understand what was happening here. So we asked that, we actually got Jeff Forbes involved, our legal counsel, and indicated to him or asked him what we could do because they submitted a bid, but they wanted exceptions to what they submitted in the language to the bid. Jeff recommended that we move forward with accepting a contract with Rumpke and then to work with them to negotiate that contract language. So even prior to council meeting tonight on May 20th, city staff as well as Jeff Forbes, our legal counsel, and representatives from our insurance company sat down with Rumpke, discussed what their requests were as far as that contract language, and ultimately Rumpke did rescind several of their exceptions, and both parties came to a mutual agreement that we will continue to work through and find resolutions to the remaining language changes that were being requested. As I indicated, the city's current contract expired on April 30th. Rumpke has committed to a current contract extension until August 1 under the current rates. With their bid proposal, I will tell you their bid contains significant rate increases. Rumpke, as you're seeing with many vendors out there today, they're indicating that the current economic conditions, inflationary increases, staffing challenges, fuel costs, and capital costs are really driving those, the need for significant increases to our residential rates. Staff did anticipate these increases, just like I said, from what we were seeing with a number of our vendors. So I don't think we were shocked. Maybe we were shocked with the significant increase that it was, but we knew we would see an increase. Let me highlight some of the language that are in currently being proposed by Rumpke that is significant for our residents. Right now, residents enjoy an unlimited number of container pickups. With the new language, residents will be permitted 2 95-gallon containers or 6 35-gallon containers or bag with no requirement to notify Rumpke. However, should residents exceed these amounts, or again, if they have any large item pickups with that, Rumpke must receive advance notice. Failure to notify Rumpke at least 24 hours in advance may result in removal being delayed at least 1 week. And residents can always reach out to the city at our customer service number to notify us, and we can help assist with those notifications to Rumpke. The current contract does contain language that outlines responsibilities for Rumpke, and if they should not meet them, that there may be a penalty imposed. The city has never enforced this language, but it's helpful if it's included in there should we ever need it moving forward. In an effort to keep residential rates low, and probably the number one complaint we do get from residents is the start time. Many residents will come in and are irritated that Rumpke starts before 5 a.m. But I will explain to you the reason they do that, and the reason we are able to keep our rates lower than maybe some other communities is that early start time. They are able to not have, or what happens is they don't have to add additional resources or pickup routes in order to service the entire community with that earlier start time. So that's been in the contract. That is going to remain in the contract moving forward. The current rates residents pay for waste and recycling is $16.64 per month. That includes a 5% administrative fee that GCWW charges us. Back in 2002, when we moved up water operations and billing operations to GCWW, one of our requests was that residents receive one bill for water, sewer, waste, recycling, and stormwater. And so as part of that contract with GCWW, they do add a 5% administrative fee. The city also has a 5% administrative fee included in that, and that is used to assist in recouping some of our costs related to customer service and fielding utility-related inquiries. The city has been able to accumulate a balance in our waste collection fund for emergency situations. That current fund balance, combined with Rumpke's willingness to extend our existing rates through July, will help the city, or actually allow us to delay an actual rate increase to our residents until January 2023, which will be consistent with other user fees that are assessed in the city. And potentially, we can use that that fund balance to spread out Rumpke's rate increase over the life of the contract to minimize annual rate increases to 8% instead of Rumpke's 15% projected for the first year of the contract. We are very hopeful that if financial and operational trends continue, staff is anticipating right now that we might be able to see a sewer rate reduction that could likely take effect in January. Compared to typical individual waste collection bills and unincorporated, they run about $35 per month. This is an annual savings to Mason residents of over $200 a year, just from us doing a bid process for us for the community. Ordinance 2022-84 is recommended for adoption. I'm happy to answer any questions if council or mayor has them.
All right, thank you, Jennifer. I need a motion to suspend the rule and allow for adoption after the first reading.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? A motion to adopt?
So moved?
Second.
Okay, any council discussion?
Mayor?
Okay, yes.
Yeah, I just want to say, my daughter just moved into a home over, we can't decide if it's Mainville or Deerfield because the address is Mainville, but she's getting bills from Deerfield. But my point is, they pay significantly more for their trash collection over there. So I understand that these things happen. Our current climate is everything's costing more, and I just appreciate the efforts of the city and staff to keep our rates, even with the increases, still reasonable. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Mayor, if I may, familiar with Rumpke in Springdale, familiar with Rumpke here in Mason. I guess up until recently, you could probably put a nuclear reactor out there and they'd pick it up. But I guess we've got a call if we got one reactor or two. But they've done a very good job. And I have to tell you, they have missed my house a couple times. On the cul-de-sac, I have called. They've been very polite, and they got it to next week. So but they do. I think they do a good job, and it's one business we don't want to get into as a city. Mr. Hanson, would you concur with that? Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, roll call, please.
Councilmember Bradburn?
Yes.
Councilmember Hackey?
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman?
Yes.
Mayor Spaeth?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nelson?
Yes.
Councilmember Chance?
Yes.
Okay, we're to item 23, committee reports. Anyone have a committee report they would like to share?
Mayor, I do.
Okay, yes?
The Arts Committee met, and we spoke about the Southwest Philharmonic Concert, which is on August 6th. It's free to the public. It will be held on the same here at the municipal grounds where Red Rhythm and Boom is held. And the concert will be John Williams, Star Wars, and Beyond. And it is a family-friendly event. You don't want to miss it. Again, August 6th. We also spoke about the Regional Center for the Arts, talked about the progress there. But if I can say, and I really wanted to tell that individual who came to the podium today, the CDC and the Mason Regional Center for the Arts is completely separate and different. They are not, the CDC is not managing that project by any means, and there will not be any retail or residential property houses being built on that property at all. So that's very incorrect information, and it's important that the wrong information doesn't get out there, because this is really a great project. Also, I'm the president of the Warren County Municipal League, and we have talked a lot about, there's only a few municipal leagues in the state of Ohio, Hamilton being one, Warren County being one, and I think there's one more way up north, but it's such an important organization. It really brings elected leaders together and talks about different laws that are being passed that could impact our municipalities. It also addresses issues at stake. For instance, we've had safety issues that were addressed. We talked a lot about heroin. It's a great organization, and we are coming together with the Hamilton County Municipal League, kind of joining together and having a joint meeting, and it will be held here in Mason, so I do recommend everybody here come to it. It is, hold on one second, let me get it is at the Grizzly Golf Center, and it is June 15th at from 6 to 8. So just come and meet the other.
This June 15th?
Yes, Wednesday. So come and meet the other elected officials from Hamilton County, and more heads together trying to solve problems is better. So that's all I had.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have something? Yes, Councilmember Grossman.
Mayor, I'd just like to request a committee meeting for the Community and Recreation Committee. I believe I'm chair of that committee. One topic, we can discuss whatever staff recommends as well, but I did not know that there were deed restrictions on the Gould property, and I'd like for us to unpack that. Since our committee covers parks, and just if staff could prepare answers to the questions we were given tonight, and we can talk about that in that committee, which I believe includes Mr. Bradburn and Mr. Stricula. And you can get back to us on when that schedule will occur. Hopefully we can have that before the next meeting.
Mayor, if I can make a request on that. Since you're in charge of the committees, I would request that stays within the Arts Committee, because we are really into this project, and starting to spread it out amongst other committees is going to make it confusing. So if it's something that she wishes us to address, I'd like to keep that in the Arts Committee.
Okay, I'm going to have our city manager, we'll talk about this after tonight and figure out what committee would be best, or if both can look at it. But I don't think we're going to get into that discussion right now and figure out the specifics of which committee would be appropriate. But thank you for bringing that up. We'll figure that out. But thank you both we'll figure that out. Okay, anybody else have a committee report? Okay, so we are now on to old and new business, item number 24. Does anybody have anything they wish to share about old and new business? Yes.
Just real quick, I'd like to, in the spirit of what we discussed tonight with all the high school teams, Mason baseball team was able to make it to the the regionals, top 4 in the state, and they came up a little short, but pretty exciting stuff. And then also, on my way here today, traveling down Church Street, there were a lot of trees on houses and on cars. So if we want to, keep those folks in our, thoughts and prayers. I mean, I've had that happen. I don't know if you remember when it was, we had that sideways tornado or whatever. My wife was pregnant, and I was going to get Pedialyte, and I come home, and there was a big tree on my house. So yeah, just keep those folks in our thoughts. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, yes.
Mayor, I am going to address you all to follow up, and I apologize. I didn't have as much time to prepare as I would have liked, just with everything going on. But I did my best to get ready for tonight, and I regret not reading my notes more carefully because I missed a couple of important questions that really needed to be addressed. And we needed to know these things before we voted on that ordinance. So I'm just going to go ahead and read through it. But
Councilmember Grossman, let me just ask this. I do want to ask you, in the interest of time, it's getting late and we have executive session, if you can limit your time, or else maybe it might be better to serve the time by getting your questions or concerns.
I'll keep it very brief.
To get what more thoroughly, because you're not going to get any answers tonight anyway. And it's just going to be a repetitive thing of what, I appreciate what you have to say, I do, but in the interest of time, I think it may be better suited for this to be addressed with Eric outside of this meeting, and we can discuss that back again at another time.
Yes, but as a representative of the public, I have the right to raise these questions.
I understand that, and I'm not trying to deny you that, but I'm just saying you're not going to get any answers right at this moment, and in the interest of time, I'm going to ask you to limit it if you're going to do it now.
I will limit it.
All right.
First, I'll start by saying I'm very disappointed in the mayor's refusal to call a work session and to allow these follow-up questions to be asked, and for not allowing me to do it before we voted tonight. The mayor and members of this council circulated recall petitions, and one of the stipulations on those recall petitions was that they accused council members in 2020 of not allowing for the full participation of all of council. Today, there's a double standard. Would a private sector company approve a $180,000 contract to a vendor with no experience, no history of completed projects, without clear timelines and specific deliverables? We should not do that either. Why was there never one mention of this grant funding agreement from committee reports from the Downtown Committee chair, and no discussion of this whatsoever in the special meeting of the council with the Maid Chamber and the CDC a few months ago? That feels like a big-time double standard. And here's the real big question that I meant to ask earlier, and I didn't get a chance to. It's a very important question to all of this. A public entity cannot just give public dollars and benefits to a private interest without a clear public purpose that benefits taxpayer interest. In other words, the government can't transfer wealth to private nonprofits unless the result of it generates tax revenue or offsets government expenses. There are no specific analytics to demonstrate any tax revenue benefits in this $180,000 grant proposal, or in the oblique references to future phases, timelines, and deliverables. It all seems like expense. Much of the documents and answers to previously submitted questions are incomplete and oblique, with claims that the questions asked are not relevant. But I can promise you I would not be asking questions if I didn't think they were relevant. The big question that I missed earlier was, if adopted, and hopefully somebody in this room can answer this tonight or very soon, if adopted, will any of the scope of this work costs identified in this $180,000 grant fund budget be performed by the Maid Chamber employees and or volunteers, Maid Chamber members, and or their entities? That's an important question I'd like to have answered. After requesting and reviewing financial documents, it's clear the CDC does not meet our 2-to-1 match criterion for grants made to nonprofits. That's been in place in the city since 2007. The Maid CDC has claimed the 2-to-1 match is not relevant. I disagree. The CDC does not seem like it can raise its own funds with private sector investors to fund its initiative to partner with the city in a P3, a public-private partnership, but that's very unusual for us. This grant request is a most unusual P3 proposal, as this private nonprofit has no experience or successfully completed projects in the genre of the venture. But you guys are calling for the experts, so we have to take it out of our hands with educated professionals that work here every day that have degrees in planning. It has to come out of our hands, the city's hands, and it needs to go to a group of people who have no traditional, conventional government oversight and no experience in this area. Once again, the Maid CD states lack of experience is irrelevant in their response to my questions, but I disagree. Experience and proven success are most relevant factors that we as elected officials should have considered.
Councilmember Grossman, I'm going to please ask you to wrap it up.
I'll summarize some of this by saying a lot of the document that we were given I felt like was false by omission. They did not go into detail about the Pogemeyer study, yet most of their proposal reflects work that has already been done, and that's not made clear in this proposal that we were given. So it's not clear to the public that we already have a lot of this work done. Much of the CDC's proposal and narrative language has been false by omission of key facts, vague statements, not liking the process. We want to make Mason better. We need a master plan. Those things have been marketed to Mason residents and their identified stakeholders already, as identified by the Chamber and CDC. But we're paying for it now, and we're not even sure how long the phase is supposed to be and what exactly the deliverables are. The Maid CDC, Mr. Bradburn actually showed that video, stated some property owners felt left out of city discussions, but omitted key historical facts about extensive community engagement and the following of standards of best practices recommended by neutral firms like the Pogemeyers and the McBride-Dale Clarion firm, with whom the city contracted to update zoning code in the comprehensive plan. The Maid CDC's insinuations and characterizations of the downtown community and property owners were left out of past decisions about downtown are just not true. Since 1999, extensive time and community engagement have occurred and was
Councilmember Grossman,
facilitated
I'm
by
going to
firms
beg
and
you,
taxpayer
please wrap it up.
funds.
Please, now.
It seems as though, I know it's getting late, but these things needed to be considered in full council participation.
We've already
needed to
voted
take
on it, and it's
before we
already
voted.
passed, and if you have continuing questions and concerns, I want you to work that through Eric, who can work it through the Maid CDC. If it needs to be brought up at a later time, we can figure out a time to do that, but there's no purpose in this at this point. We've already
I
passed.
think the purpose is this doesn't take effect for 30
I'm ready
days,
to
and council
move on.
can consider the
Wrap it
repeal or the amendment of
on.
it.
If you're not going to wrap it up, I'm going to
The
move.
purpose is, I'll wrap it up with this. This doesn't take effect for 30 days because it only passed by 4 votes. I implore you, council, to think through this a little more carefully. We can make amendments, we can compromise. We could have had a full discussion with all of council. I would ask that we repeal it and go back to the drawing board and come up with a better proposal with clear deliverables, clear timelines, and that reflect the work that, scope of work that actually needs to be done, not repeating work that we've already paid for.
Mayor, can I make a motion to adjourn and go into executive session?
I have something I'd like to say for old and new business. Actually, I'd like to talk about some good things going on in our community. And first of all, I want to say thank you to Mr. Dan Chambers here, who does our Music of Mason on the downtown plaza. The first 2 weekends were a really big turnout, and even last weekend there was some threat of rain, but people came out anyway, and I think you're doing an awesome job. I don't know who works with you on that, but thank them also. Want to remind everyone, please go out to the Grade 18 restaurant every Thursday and Friday. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, they have music there. Also, in our packets this time, we got some information about Joe Rigglesberger. Did I say that right? and his staff, the finance department. We need to say a big thank you to them. The City of Mason's annual comprehensive financial report for the period ending 12/31/20 received the Certificate of Achievement in Financial Reporting from the Government Finance Officers Association, and they've been earning that since 1997. So I think we should give a big kudos out to Joe and his department. And also, we had a memo in our packet about some really great news coming down from Senator Steve Wilson, who has again secured funding for the adaptive ball fields. This time $400,000 is going to be secured for the adaptive ball fields at McKeno Park as part of the 2022-23 State of Ohio capital budget. With other financial commitments through grants from the state of Ohio and possibly monies being distributed through the American Rescue Plan Act, it's possible that beginning construction of the ball fields could occur by early 2023. These fields are also going to support wiffle ball, kickball, t-ball, and more. And this is so awesome for McKeno Park. And just because we will not have a meeting again until afterwards, I want to remind everybody, as Eric mentioned in his report, Red Rhythm and Boom is July 3rd, and that's going to be awesome. And that same weekend is the 50th anniversary celebration of the golf course, and they're going to have many events that are going to be going on that entire weekend too. So I hope everyone will come out and enjoy those. Thank you all very much. Okay, so now we are to item number 25, recognition of visitors. Did anyone want to come to the podium and say anything before we go into executive session? Yes. You know the drill there, young lady.
Good evening, Jennifer Treppel, 5230 Hidden Creek Circle. I have more good news, and that's on account of Rumpke. One of my neighbors went out real early one morning, who knows why they were out that early, and talked to the driver, and the driver said, we're going to try to be a little quieter. And since then, I have not heard those trucks.
Yes. All right. Thank you.
Let's stay here.
Anyone else would like to come to the podium? Please come up, state your name and your address. And I don't think we had you, did you state your name and address? I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay.
I'm so glad you did do that because it reminded me I needed to. I'm not used to the formal process. I just have a couple of things I wanted to note. Some questions related to tonight.
Your name and address?
Sorry, I did it. Gina Sanders. I don't even want to tell you where I live. 221 Kings Mills Road. And there are trees all over my yard and driveway. I can't even get in and out right now. So help your neighbors. Come to my house. Anyway, I just wanted to say a couple of things tonight related to everything. Been trying to keep up throughout the last, 18 months, couple of years on all of these things that are going on related to each other, but separate from each other, and trying to understand them. And I appreciate all of you for clarifying and asking questions. I did just want to say thank you, though, for passing Ordinance 2022-70, and here's why. One is that I have a couple of questions, but maybe you can clarify for me. I keep hearing the lack of experience, and I think that's a valid point, like lack of experience. But my understanding, and I could be wrong, is the CDC, and this is partly because I just wanted to help out downtown, and I'm speaking to Kathy because I know this is a big concern of yours, but I just joined as a volunteer because I wanted to help, and I didn't have, I just thought it was a great time to jump in and help downtown because I was really excited about the opportunities going on down there. So I don't have experience as a developer, but I am a resident who's really excited and just wants to see this move. And it sounds like for 30 years, it hasn't tremendously. Now we've seen some fun improvements and great businesses go in, but I also know how difficult it is to do anything with your own business. I even know where I live, how hard it is for residents to do anything that you want to do with your property without going through 10 million hoops. And it's kind of scary at this point, if I'm being really honest, because of all of this that's going on. It feels very combative. It feels very, it just seems hard. So I thank you for passing that. But my understanding is that CDC isn't going to be the ones doing this stuff. They're going to be higher. That's why they're asking for money. I could be wrong, but I think
My understanding is, and maybe somebody can clarify that they want money, yes, for marketing, because I knocked on doors for hours and hours, and it's hard. Like, you have to have marketing pieces, and you need to get information out and figure out ways to do that. And it is hard with just volunteers because it's our time and our money. So I don't know what the magic number is, but I'm just questioning, like, I understand there's vagueness that I think we just need communication on. I don't think it needs to be a stopper per se, and I want to know, are we looking to hire, is the CDC, because I want to know too, we're going to be hiring professionals to help with all of this. It's not like we're just doing it. So that's a question I would love to be clarified if somebody could figure that out at some point. The other thing I wanted to say about experience is that prior to being council members, I'm sure nobody had any experience. I don't think anybody grows up in elementary school, maybe I'm wrong, but like, hey, I want to be a city council member, or hey, yes, maybe I want to be in government, or yay, maybe I want to do bigger things, but it's a service opportunity. And I think that's what the CDC is. It's a service opportunity. And so as a servant my entire life, like everything I've ever done, it's been about service. I always have consulted professionals, and I've always needed money to do it. Having worked in development and trying to raise money for nonprofit organizations, I just know how challenging that is. And if the city kicks forward something, and I know I heard there's a 2-for-1 match or whatever, I don't know anything about that. I would love to hear more about it. But I think what this comes down to is trust and poor relationships of the past. And as a resident, I'm asking all of you to just set it down, let it go, and serve your residents. Listen to us, ask us, let us be a part of it. It may sound a little opportunistic, but I'm telling you, at this point, dreams of mine moving into downtown and perhaps looking for needs in the city and thinking, oh, what kind of businesses would fit here? I'll tell you right now, I don't have any interest in doing that because I don't want to deal with this. So, and I feel bad for those who are, and it's a stress of theirs every single day. So I just wanted to bring up those points and just say that there were volunteers who showed up and listened, and they just simply valued the residents and what they were saying. And I think the residents have spoken by the voting of the Keystone Project. I think they heard enough about it and decided not to do it, and that's okay. And we can hear about other projects and decide not to do it, and I think that's okay. But it really is up to us. I think that's the point of all this. So we elect you to represent us, and so thank you for that, because I feel like the vote in the past votes have made it clear that that's what the town wants. At least that's what I was hearing when I was trying to listen as a volunteer. The other thing I just wanted to bring up is I keep hearing how very little has happened, very little has happened, very little has happened. Yet we've already done this past work, this Pokemeyer, I don't even know if I'm saying it right, study. Sounds like it was over 24 years ago, which I'm sure that is chocked full of great useful information, but what's wrong with taking history and taking what's right now, which takes investment? 24 years later, if I did anything based on 24 years ago, it probably wouldn't go that well. I've raised kids from 25 to 13, and in just those amount of years, I'm a completely different parent. So these are the only analogies I have because I'm not a developer. So these are just questions I have, and I don't mean it like threatening. I just mean it like these are questions I have. Why can't we look at the Pokemeyer study and invest in new studies? I don't see a conflict of interest in that. I think it takes communication and us getting curious and using wisdom and compassion for each other instead of perhaps attacking based on things in the past. And I just think our town wants to see something different, which would basically mean drop the politics, let go of some of the stuff that needs to be let go of, and hear your constituents. I was taking a lot of notes.
The other thing I wanted to say, as a question too, it seems to me if we decide who is in charge of downtown development, it's like, okay, we want to take it out of the city's hands. Okay, we want to take it out of the CDC's hands. Okay, so whose hands does it belong in? And how do we put all the players in the right places and decide who the best person is to go forward? Who is that professional? And that's just a general question I ask council to think about. Right now, over the last couple of years, things are so negative that I feel like it's challenging to have hope as a community that we can do this. And I'm a pretty hopeful gal, so I hope we can figure it out. And then just lastly, it's a little stressful, and I get up here and I forget to say my where I live and all that kind of stuff because of the tone of treating people poorly who've been up here, treating people poorly who've been together on council, and I think that needs to stop. We do it in the name of justice because we're serving our community, and that's what we need to do. And there are definitely things, don't get me wrong, that the public needs to know that we don't, and we count on you for that. But there is a tone and a way we can do it respectfully. And I just ask that is pondered because it gets harder and harder to be here for 4 hours on my birthday, just want to say, with trees down in my yard. But that's how important it is to me. So those are just questions I have. I don't mean them, I really would like the answers to them. And I would like to hear if there's something perhaps that I don't know that I should know, because I appreciate that information. But I just thought those were important things to think about tonight. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you very, very much. Okay, anybody else, would you like to come to the podium? Okay, I think we are on to,
Wait, Mayor, if I can say something real quick to Mrs. Sanders. If you want to put those in a form, at least a questionnaire form, because we have some of those in the past that maybe the downtown committee in conjunction with the CDC, I'd love to get those answered for you.
Okay, we're on to item 26. I need a motion to adjourn into executive session for the purpose of acquisition, disposition of property, and litigation.
Second.
Okay, roll call.
Councilmember Hackey?
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman?
Yes.
Mayor Spaeth?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nelson?
Yes.
Councilmember Chance?
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn?
Yes.
Who's staying out here or going in back?
If any of you are interested in staying, we will be coming back after executive session in here and going on to item 27.
Is that Jeff's?
Yes, we're two.
Members of council, thank you. I know it's late. I know you were in executive session. I just had a conversation with your law director. We were frankly hoping that if something would develop out of that, we'd have more content to the conversation. But in light of your law director's discussion with us, again, I'm Matt Fellerhoff. I represent Tufts University and the property owner of Route 741 Holdings, LLC. We made a request in November for a waiver of the requirement in the code that the property owner, in order to receive sewer, that they annex. And I'm not going to get into all of our arguments right now. In light of the conversation with council, I'm going to ask that I postpone my request and put it on the agenda for the next council meeting to give us the opportunity to talk. The only thing that I asked this council for, we did make this request originally in November. If our conversations are not fruitful, I ask this council, please give my client the answer, yes or no, to our request when we make this request at the next council meeting. I just asked for the courtesy of a decision if we're not able to work this out any other way. And with that, I just request that we be put on the agenda for the next council meeting. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you very much. I
Thank you.
appreciate that. Okay, I just need a motion to adjourn, please. Okay, all in favor? Thank you.